TNA is like, everybody is asking me, can it be turned around? Is there any way to turn this around? And I obviously don't know what the answer is. Maybe you can turn it around. But my gut feeling is, no, it is impossible to turn it around. Why? Because remember when WCW, they brought in like Hall and Nash, and they did the NWO, and then they had like the NWO Red and Black and all of these guys, and they came on TV every week, and what did they say? They said, hey, WCW sucks. And they said it week after week after week. All of the cool heels in the company would come on TV and tell you how much WCW sucked. And keep in mind, this was only for like 3 years before they went out of business. But by the time they went out of business, if you asked a fan about WCW, what would they tell you? They would say, WCW sucks. And so WWE tried to do their invasion, and I mean, there were plenty of problems from the WWE side. But there was also the big problem that all of the WWE fans thought that WCW sucked. So now TNA has been in business for 12 years. And for 12 years, it has, well, not the whole 12 years, but for a lot of the 12 years, it has sucked. It is a tainted brand. And I don't think that unless you like tear the entire thing down and like you get rid of everything about it, you get rid of the six-sided ring, you get rid of all the stars, you get rid of the announcers, you rename it, like you completely rebuild it with an entirely new face, and you call it something different. And by the way, Impact Wrestling doesn't count because everybody still calls it TNA. I think that unless you do all of that, it will never turn the corner because it is as tainted as a brand can possibly be. And it's sad. And that to me is why AJ can go on the indie scene and draw 1,500 fans. And he goes and he does a TNA show and they draw 500. Anyway, let's talk about this depressing show. And it wasn't even bad.
No. Well,
it was just depressing.
Parts of it were quite bad. But, yeah. So, Roode did a promo. Bobby Roode entered the building and said that he lost Lashley 2 weeks ago and he was sad about it. If only he had known what was about to follow.
Oh, yeah.
Austin Aries came out for a promo.
By the way, when you mentioned the building being sad, TNA has had years of experience in taking small buildings that no one is in and making it look packed, right?
Mm-hmm.
They could not do that here.
No. It was media on first sight. There ain't nobody there.
Oh, my God. It was so sad.
And we have to do this for a few more weeks now.
Oh, yeah. Well, at least in a couple of weeks, they moved to Wednesday, which had 400.
Oh, well.
So that is an improvement. That's a 40% increase. Jesus. Think about that.
So
40% increase to a whopping 400.
So you recall the last week's show ended with Austin Aries winning essentially a tournament for a title shot at whatever belt he wanted. So this week's show, he comes out. He starts teasing that he will challenge Gail Kim or the Wolves to a handicap match. Samoa Joe, the X Division champ, comes out and says, if you're a real man, you'll fight me. And Aries says, hey, that X title is what's all, everything that's good about wrestling. It doesn't matter how tall you are, or how old you are, or what you look like. It's what you can do in this ring. And I challenge you. And the match started. This is wrestling and fast forward. It went from, in TV time, it went from the title being won to the guy fighting for the title in about 5 minutes.
I wish that Austin Aries would have come out and said that he was afraid to face Bobby Lashley because nobody could beat him.
Sure. I guess. So they wrestled, and God bless these men.
Tried so hard in an empty building
to have a good match for the TV viewers at home, because there are hundreds of thousands of TV viewers at home. And they got, this is awesome chants from a few dozen people. And the story was that Aries kept going for the brainbuster and not getting it. And finally he had his tope, then a missile dropkick, and then the corner dropkick. And he finally hits this brainbuster, and Joe, of course, is big. And Aries could barely get him up, and then just dropped him right on his head. And Joe kicked out, and Aries tried for the last chancery, but Joe turned it into the choke, and Aries tapped out. It was a very excellent match, and then it was to the back.
Remember when, little guys, did little guy matches? And they didn't go in there at 170 pounds and brainbuster 300-pound Samoans.
I do remember that.
I guess I shouldn't complain, but
There's something else I was going to say about this, and I forget what it was now, so we'll just move on. Spud was backstage trying to be nice to Ethan, but Ethan was mean to him instead.
that is what happened. I liked that Spud just looked so sad, and the guy is great because, like, I felt really bad for the guy. I was like, man, poor Spud. You know what I mean? Was I the only one?
No. He's very great.
He's very great.
I still think, we'll see how it goes out. I think turning Spud babyface is a huge mistake.
Oh, yeah, I'll talk about that in a second.
All right. Wolves and Kurt Angle had a happy meeting. It was about the stips for the last match in the tag series, and then, of course, they teased the announcement for later. So Ethan and Spud came out.
Should mention, by the way, that when Spud was so sad backstage, one of the reasons he was so sad was because he said he had not hung out in weeks with his best friend.
Yeah. Hung out.
Hung out. Yeah, they didn't just hung out together for weeks.
No. So Ethan and Spud came out.
When was the last time you hung out with Jim?
Actually, it's been a long fucking time.
Exactly. That's the point. What grown men are hanging out with their best friend every week? Unless you're like coming over to watch a UFC or something.
I guess. Ideally, I'd be hanging out a lot more, but I'm very busy.
Exactly, because we're grown men with jobs.
I see. So, Ethan and Spud came out. Ethan asked if they were friends and said he was the employer and Spud was the employee. Then Ethan said his friends liked yacht clubs. Spud likes comic books and wrestling. Which, now that I think about it, makes Dixie's comment it all fits now. Ethan's a Carter, therefore he hates wrestling fans. So he buried Spud's suit in his haircut, and Spud said he wanted to get Ethan's hair.
In his one-bedroom apartment, where he just sits there and watches wrestling.
Yeah.
What a star.
Yeah. Ethan then said Spud got his suits at, and I am not making this up, the toilet store.
Oh, yeah.
If it hadn't been for Rusev, this would be the most absurd promo I'd heard all week.
I'm still laughing thinking about Rusev. That was a great promo.
It's really a Big Show that made it.
Hell yeah.
But so Ethan said Spud had failed him and Dixie, started slapping Spud and daring him to cry. Eric Young interrupted.
Another short guy with a bad haircut. A perfect guy to stand up for Spud.
Said, if you want to blame someone for what happened to Dixie, I'm your Huckleberry. He quoted Tombstone.
Yes, he did.
There's a close-up here of Eric Young's back.
Oh, my God. This
Somebody
back.
Get this man a shirt immediately.
Oh, my God.
HD is not kind.
No, and I was like, it's a taped show, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't edit out this shot, this close-up
Crop that
in
tighter.
HD of Eric Young's back. That's the most appalling thing I've seen on television since Monday when Rosa wrestled. I don't know which I'd rather see worse.
That's actually a tough call.
I think I'd rather watch Rosa wrestle. At least it's, like, funny. Eric's back makes me want to vomit.
Yeah. So Ethan and Eric started brawling, and Spud didn't know what to do, so we just left the ring. And it turned into a match.
Good match.
EC3 versus Eric Young was totally fine.
Crowd was chanting overrated, and I didn't even know who they were talking to.
I'm assuming Ethan.
I assume so, too, but that's stupid.
The announcers plugged Bound for Glory, and at this point, and in fact by the end of the show, 0 matches announced on television.
No, none.
I know there's a card out there somewhere.
They had a video package and no announcement, not a voiceover, not a graphic, nothing.
They have one more show to promote a card.
Oh yeah,
for Bound to Glory.
Oh yeah. I don't even know if they'll promote it.
They may not. Biggest show of the year.
I think that would be a record.
I honestly hope they don't.
Because they had that ECW pay-per-view before they got rid of Heyman. Remember that December to Dismember?
Mm-hmm.
And they had one match announced on television. And on the Sunday of the show, they added a second match on WWE.com. And I actually, somewhere on my computer, I have a screenshot of it. And it just says ECW December to Dismember. And there's the main event and one more match. Right before the show was about to go on the air.
Yeah.
I was like, my God, even WCW at their worst had more than one match announced for their shows.
Yeah, for novelty's sake, I hope they don't announce anything.
That would be. You may as well. Set some records here on the way out.
So the whole match was built around Spud. Ethan wanted him to interfere, and he wouldn't. But then when Ethan was beaten, Spud put his foot on the ropes. And there was distractions and a nut shot. And Ethan hit his headlock DDT, and Eric took a great bump for it. And Ethan won. And Ethan demanded Spud raise his hand, and Spud did. And he demanded Spud hold the ropes open, and Spud did. And so they left together.
You know, maybe I'm making this up, but I spend a lot of time on audio, and I could not help but notice that when they had this match, it sounded like it was taking place in a morgue. There were so few people in the building, and it was so empty that like everything they did echoed throughout the entire building.
Yes.
The referee is counting, and it just like echoes. It's like they're in a cave. I was like, God, it's just depressing.
Mr. Anderson and Chris Melendez had a meeting backstage. Melendez thanked him for saving him from Kenny King. Anderson thanked him for his service and sacrifice. Said, look, these guys think you have a weakness, and they're going to try to exploit that weakness until you stand up to them.
Am I the only one that immediately presumed that Anderson was going to be turning on him? It's like inevitable.
It didn't occur to me, but it's wrestling, so yeah. Had a Havoc hype video. Then we were supposed to have Gail Kim versus Havoc.
Let me say something about the video.
All right.
It was like a really, really good video. And unfortunately, she's not very good. It made her look like she was this awesome killer monster heel, like the next Awesome Kong. And then she comes out and she's like, I don't know. I don't want to be too mean. It's not like she's horrible.
She's not Rosa Mendez.
No, God, no. But she's really not very good.
She's not, for example, Awesome Kong.
Oh, God, no.
No. I, frankly, was more appalled by the booking than anything else.
Just the whole idea. She comes out, they come out for the match, and Havoc attacks her in the aisle, and she beats the living hell out of her, and she hoists her up, and she puts her in a hammerlock, and then she drops her on her arm, injuring her shoulder. And then they start carting Gail to the back.
Yeah.
And I was like, so Havoc is supposed to be getting a championship match, and she's so damn stupid that she attacks the champion outside and lays her out, and the champion is unable to have the match.
That, too.
You know what I mean?
That is also stupid. But frankly, what bothered me at least as much is just the whole idea that, well, Taz, the bell hasn't rung, the match hasn't started, so this is all legal.
Yeah.
And I know TNA is not alone in this, but what in the hell?
Can't afford security right now.
If that's the case, then before the bell rings, you should shoot your opponent. Or stab them.
Well, the problem, Vinny, is if you did that, then your opponent cannot get in the ring and you can't have your championship match or win the title.
It just didn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. And Havoc was the idiot here.
Havoc should have been disqualified, or both of them should have been disqualified. There should have been no match.
There wasn't.
Well, not here. They recapped.
There wasn't going to be because Gail had to talk her into it.
That's true. They recapped the tag team feud, and then the Wolves came out to announce the steps for the final match. Before they could do so, Team 3D interrupted. So no matter how good the Wolves were, you'll never be as good as Team 3D.
Is Team 3D baby faces or heels?
Who the hell knows?
Because they were such dicks here.
Well, they were, but the crowd liked them.
Yeah.
They were complete assholes, but they're actual stars. And so the crowd chanted for ECW in TNA in 2014.
In 2014, yep.
Yeah. So
they're in Bethlehem.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. But they said they were going to pick the last match. They told the Wolves to leave. This brought out the Hardys. Of all the stupid things to steal from Raw, it's the never-ending promo where guys keep coming out.
And then what did the Hardys say?
The Hardys said, the Wolves, said, Team 3D is right. You guys, the Wolves, you're not as good as us.
Buried them.
Yeah, you should leave and let the legend settle things. The crowd cheered all this. Then when Davey stood up for himself, he got booed.
Oh, yeah. Davey tried to cut this babyface promo standing up for themselves after all the mean things that these guys said, and everybody booed.
It wasn't. It was not a bad promo. It's just the Hardys and Team 3D are stars, and the fans didn't want to see what these little guys had to say.
Yep.
So a brawl broke out, and Team 3D grabbed a table, and the Wolves grabbed chairs, the Hardys grabbed a ladder. You can all see where this is going. An Angle came out, and the fans chanted TLC, and then Eddie said it was Full Metal Mayhem, and the crowd at least was into that announcement. So there you go.
The good news is the crowd was into the announcement, and it is apparently a great match, which should come as a surprise to nobody. But, man, the crowd during this brawl was just, it was death.
God, I forgot about that when that fight started. Oh. Sad show.
So, it's like a different kind of depressing. Because, like,
I actually feel bad for these guys.
Yeah, sometimes you have, like, you know, a promotion is dying and it's the end, and, you know, it's like it's just like a hilariously bad show. But, like, this wasn't a bad show. The show was fine. It was just in front of an absolutely dead crowd. Nobody cared about anything.
Anderson and Melendez ran into King and MVP backstage. I was not quite sure what was going on, but it appeared MVP challenged Anderson to a match, and as it turned out, that's what happened.
Good job.
Gail Kim was diagnosed with an injury involving body parts that I'm not sure actually exist.
Yeah, I don't know where this...
Your doctor was making up words.
Yeah.
And Gail said, do whatever is necessary so I can wrestle tonight. The doctor turned away, I believe, to get some powerful painkillers.
Classic dumb baby face.
Yeah. Manic versus Shark Boy. Now,
you know, Dave told me, like, he reviewed this match on Wednesday, and I was just, like, listening to it going, what? What are you talking about? It doesn't make any sense. No. It just sounds so stupid. And then they came out and they did exactly what Dave said.
Yeah. And it made no sense and it was stupid.
No.
Okay, first of all, when they announced Shark Boy's name, you were there with me. I shouted, what?
That's exactly what you said.
And then he came out. One of my favorite films is Jaws. And one of the characters in that movie has a great line where he says, all these things do is swim and eat and make baby sharks. I don't know if Shark Boy has been doing much swimming or making baby sharks.
Looked like he was about to give birth to a baby shark.
He's done been eaten.
Oh, yeah.
He got fat. He ate all the fish in the sea, and he got fat.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't try to hide this. They worked it into the match. He got blown up quickly. He was huffing and puffing and gasping and coughing because he's fat. Which would all be okay, except he was still winning.
Oh, yeah.
Manic's big debut in his new gimmick was getting beat up by a short, fat guy in a fish mask.
Yeah, exactly.
I cannot comprehend this.
You know what was, like, amazing about it was, I mean, they couldn't have, I mean, I can't even, like, so somebody came up with the idea of having Manic get a win, right?
What a novel concept, but yes.
Okay, and so somebody else must have decided, hey, you know, maybe Shark Boy lives in Pennsylvania, I don't know. But somebody came up with the idea to bring in Shark Boy. So, do you think that they, like, called him and he said, well, actually, I guess he lives in Ohio, but anyway, well, I'll do it, but I'm a little fat. And so they went, he's fat. What could we do with a fat shark? And they came up with this idea. Like, is that what happened?
I guess.
Like, I'm just thinking about this match. He came out, and he was fat, right?
Right.
And so he got in the ring with Manic, and he did a couple of high spots, and then he got, like, really tired, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then he kept beating the shit out of Manic.
Right.
Am I missing anything?
No.
Actually, I am missing something. The crowd hated it.
It did.
And it was death.
So
it was television death.
Yeah. So then what happened was eventually Manic was able to cut off the fat fish.
Yes.
So then...
Thank God for him.
I guess. Because then Manic started doing a bunch of moves. And the crowd that didn't want to see Davey Richards, they didn't want to see Manic versus Shark Boy either.
Oh, no. They did not want to see any of this.
This match went on. Honestly, it was probably like a 4-minute match or less.
I bet it was like 3 minutes.
It felt so long. So Manic won with a frog splash.
I just, like, the whole thing here was... I don't know what anybody was thinking. I don't get the match. I don't get the storyline. I don't get who was supposed to get over. It sucked.
Yeah.
I will say, though, that Brian Hebner, best referee in the business.
Why do you say that?
I just think he's great.
All right.
I just think he's a great referee. Maybe it's because I'm watching so much Nick Patrick.
Could be.
It was just absolutely.
I was
always a big fan. Part of it is I always thought that like Earl Hebner was awesome. I thought that his cadence on his count was great. It was a good dramatic count, but not like overly dramatic. You never really noticed the guy, but like he had a special way of. I mean, there's really like an art to refereeing.
Sure, absolutely.
Like, you know, remember all of those Hebner counts from the 90s where there was going to be a title change, and so he just counted like a little bit slower.
He'd hold that third count up for just a bit.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so there was like a drama to it. I just thought he was such a great referee. And then I watched Nick Patrick, and I hated the way that he would like, you know, lay on his side. And I hated that refereeing. So I always thought that like Earl was great. And now I look out there at his kid, and his kid is like, he's a really good referee.
Okay. I'll try to watch out more for him. I will say this. He stopped wearing the neon blue shoes.
Well, that's right. If you don't notice him, then that's another...
Correct.
Exactly.
Correct.
Exactly. You can't help but notice, like Nick Patrick, and maybe the mullet. But I watch Nitro, and he just like sticks out like a sore thumb.
Team 3D cut a promo about how stupid the Wolves were to choose this match. Mr. Anderson versus MVP. I know there's multiple pro wrestling museums out there.
Yeah.
One of them needs to take this match and put it on display, not as a classic or historic match. Well, I guess historic in a way. This match was a perfect representation of everything that pro wrestling is in 2014.
Among it, everything that sucks about it.
They went through the motions. They hit a couple of trademark moves. There was a distraction finish, then a schoolboy.
Yep.
2014 is summed up in 5 minutes right here.
Yep.
MVP won if you care. Roode came out for a promo. He called out Lashley. Said he had watched the title match repeatedly where Lashley had beaten him.
This was like a church sermon.
With everyone in respectful silence.
A respectful silence, the echo.
Yeah. So he said that he had been the first guy to kick out of a spear, and he knew he could beat Lashley. He challenged Lashley. He said, you just got to give me one more match.
Oh, man.
One more match.
You know, when they showed up at the building and they saw 250 fans, somebody should have got that script and just, like, axed that line.
Well, okay, 2 things. First, that is Christian's catchphrase.
Yeah, they're both Canadian.
I know.
Canadian catchphrase.
They could have found anything else to chant to make him not look like a complete ripoff. More to the point, it's hard to get small crowds to chant. And this was a very, very small crowd. And they didn't want to chant.
No.
Poor Bobby was out there for a long time. Thank God a handful of fans started joining in, and it finally caught on. But, this is cringeworthy. So he's chanting one more match, and Lashley is about to accept when MVP steps in and says no when he takes Lashley to the back.
I like that Mike Tenay said he thought that Bobby Roode deserved one more shot. And I was like, the dude lost clean in the middle.
Yes.
In what way does he deserve another shot?
I don't have an answer. And so the main event for the second time, Gail Kim versus Havoc. Let's rewind. About an hour ago on the show, Gail Kim was scheduled to wrestle Havoc, but they brawled on the ramp, and it got thrown out.
Yep.
So Gail here, they're trying again. Gail comes out with a taped up shoulder, and then Havoc attacked her, and they brawled on the ramp again. No one thought to bring in extra security, make sure this didn't happen?
No, of course not. They didn't think that Havoc could possibly be that stupid twice.
I was hoping they'd actually throw it out again, but they did the match.
You know, when Dave was reviewing this on Wednesday, he was talking about this match, and then he wrapped up his review. And I was like, I didn't say anything because I thought, it is 1:30 a.m. Maybe I fell asleep, but this wasn't the main event of Impact, right? I mean, seriously. And in fact, it was the main event of Impact. And would you like to know how it did?
In the ratings?
Yes.
Badly.
A 0.75. The lowest rating of the entire period. The show opened at a 1.03. And with one exception, two exceptions actually, it essentially fell throughout the entire show before plummeting to a 0.75 for this main event. Yeah. Now, the good news is that means a lot of people did not watch this match. God bless Havoc, but oh my God.
The highlight of this, Gail is out there with a taped up shoulder. The whole point is to attack this wounded, this injury and work it over. So how does Havoc go about this? She herks her up in the air, and she hits a shoulder breaker to the other shoulder.
That's right. At which point, what does Gail do?
Sold the bad one?
She sold the right shoulder.
Yeah.
Meaning the correct one.
Yeah. I'm not sure which one that is, actually.
Well, probably the left one, since that's the,
Well, it's the injured one, but...
Exactly.
Theoretically, now she should have had two bad shoulders.
Well, they say that you have an injury on one side of your body, it affects the other side.
I see.
That's what I've always heard.
Anyway. So Gail was making a one-arm comeback, and actually before that, first she kicked out of the shoulder breaker, and Taz says, the crowd showing her respect. People, the crowd was quiet.
Yeah.
The crowd was eerie and quiet. So Gail then
made thinking the same thing. This is the main event.
Gail, then she made a one-arm comeback, and she tried to move a few times, but Havoc cut her off at the chicken wing slam again. No one cared. Very depressing show. And Havoc won with a choke slam.
Yeah, that was the end. Havoc won the title. And within a couple of weeks, spoiler alert, they took the title off of her because they discovered that, in fact, she's not very good. Yeah. There are tapes. Know what I mean?
Of better stuff to watch?
No, if you're going to bring somebody in,
I see.
You can watch them and determine if they are any good before you decide to put the championship on them. Anyway, that was Impact, everybody. It was...
You could have them do matches with other people on the roster.
That's right.
There's a million things you can do.
Well, when they bring someone in strong like that, they always end up putting the title on them quick. All right.
I suppose we should discuss Impact.
I guess we should.
It was quite the show. This may have had the company's best match of the year and the worst match of the year on the same show.
Well, I can tell you this, that the best match of the year was so good that I can't even remember what the worst match of the year was.
Well, there you go. It had a quick promo at the beginning with Bobby Roode. He was basically begging Lashley to give him another title match. And MVP and King came out instead. They said no. Roode buried them as Lashley's lackeys and hangers-on. And so MVP said, look, if you can beat both of us in a handicap match, you can get another title shot. But if you lose, you never challenge for the title again. And Roode was angry. But his pride got the best of him, and he accepted, and he stormed off.
Yeah. The most important thing about this show, the most notable thing, is how there was nobody there.
Well, yeah.
We've been talking about that for a while. The place just looked dead empty. And it should be noted that if you only watch the main event, and you're like, Brian, you're an idiot, The main event was actually taped on a different day.
I thought so.
Yes, there were a lot of people there for the main event, but not so many people there for the first hour and a half of the show. Now, it literally, at this point, is Ring of Honor. It looks like Ring of Honor. It's got the production values maybe a little higher than Ring of Honor, but maybe not because, when I watch Ring of Honor, the Sinclair that we watch it on does not even broadcast in HD, so I'm not even watching the HD version of the show. But so the production values may in fact be exactly the same, and it's worse booking.
Yeah.
At least in terms of building up the next major show. This was the go-home show for Bound for Glory. You would never know that watching the show.
No.
And also, I should add a couple of notes here. Last week when we were talking about this show, I was talking about Chikara and how Chikara runs in the area. Do you recall this?
Yeah.
All right. Thomas here says, after listening to last week's show about the Bethlehem taping, I just wanted to mention that Chikara ran Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in Easton, Pennsylvania, which is about 15 miles from Bethlehem. And their attendance was, guess, Vinny.
500 people every day.
1,200 to 1,500 each of the 3 nights.
Yeah.
Including Friday, which went head-to-head with TNA. Yes.
Oh, there you go.
Chikara ran head-to-head with TNA on Friday night, 15 miles away, and outdrew them by at least double.
Yes. Now, does Chikara have national TV?
No.
Does Chikara have any TV?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Way to go, TNA.
And one last thing here. They are airing on Spike TV right now, but as far as I know, I don't think they're making any money for it. I could be wrong, but the contract has expired, and I think that Spike is allowing them to stay on, but I think that at this point it's just like a barter deal. Like, they give them the programming and Spike TV airs it. I think they're making zero money off their television right now.
All of this makes the main event even more inexplicable. But we'll get to that. So after that promo, we had a god-awful match. Angelina Love versus Taran Terrell versus Madison Rayne.
Yeah.
These 3 women got in the ring and they pretended to fight. And at no point in the match was it not obvious and clear that they were pretending to fight. Everything looked bad. Nothing looked good. Everything looked very, very fake. Except when Taran Terrell came flying out of the sky. I guess she hit a clothesline, but she landed very violently on her ass. Your first thought was that you thought she broke her ass.
Yes, I did.
My first thought was I thought her implants were going to bounce right off her body.
Her implants may have protected her on this fall, for all I know.
I don't think so. Don't think it works that way. But stop doing that. She's going to get hurt. So, eventually, Madison pinned Taran with a schoolgirl and a handful of tights. I will say, something miraculous happened during this match. A week out, not even a week. Was it 3 days?
3 days before Bound for Glory.
They announced a match.
They did.
And in fact, by the end of the show, they had announced an entire card. But here we are with about, at this point, roughly 100 minutes of TV time left. And they plugged their first match for the show. And what match was it? Havoc versus Velvet Sky.
Oh, yeah. This is a real match.
And if I was on a plane to Tokyo to catch Bound for Glory, and they told me that Velvet Sky and Havoc was on the show, I may buy a plane ticket to fly back.
You just turn around?
Just go home.
Yeah.
Give up. So that was something else. So
yeah, they noted that Velvet was getting the shot at the title on Sunday, and then she proceeds to come out, and she's in a corner, and when Havoc runs out at the end of the match, she flees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. As did Madison. They left Taran to die, and Havoc worked her over with some fake offense, and that was that.
Dude, this match was utterly terrible. I have no other way to describe it than utterly terrible. Madison is getting the title shot, which baffled me because, spoiler alert here, everybody, Taran ends up with the title. Taran ends up beating Havoc for the title. And I guess it can be explained away because they've taped all the way through like November 18th. Think about how many shows they have in the can. This is like, remember those old days when they do the marathon tapings for WCW and like Center Stage or whatever, and they would tape like 2 months in advance? I think TNA may have taped farther advanced than virtually any other major national weekly television program I've ever heard of. Maybe El Rey is going to beat him, but I'm not even sure. But yeah, this was really bad.
Tigre Uno and Loki versus James Storm and Great Sonata. All I could think the whole time was, this is so much better than that last match.
Oh, yeah. Key and Sonata was awesome.
Yeah. Basic formula tag. They got the heat on Tigre after Manic interfered. They plugged another match of the pay-per-view. Kasayashi versus Loki versus Samoa Joe.
Do you know the story of this match?
Not even a little bit.
Oh, this is awesome. So, you know all of the shit that's going on with TNA and Wrestle One, and how TNA wants to build these championship matches with champions who have already lost the belts.
Sure.
And in Japan, this shit doesn't fly.
Right.
So, that's what TNA is doing to Wrestle One. So what does Wrestle One do to TNA? Well, the main event of Bound for Glory, Vinny, is this Muta and Tajiri against Sonata and Storm match.
Sure. Yes.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, once again, it is Sonata and Storm against Muto and Tajiri. You got that?
Yes.
Sonata, of course, is a heel, as is James Storm, correct?
Yes.
So, Muta and Tajiri are the baby faces.
Okay.
Are you aware that at the Wrestle One show on, I believe, Wednesday, Wrestle One decided to shoot an angle where Tajiri turned on Muta and joined the heels?
Awesome.
Yes. The main event. And Tanae is there talking about how Japanese fans are going to be so excited to see this match. I'll say.
Yeah.
I think it is a chapter of its own in the upcoming Death of TNA book.
Frankly, there's too many parts of this story to keep track of for me. But,
oh, yeah, this is a disaster.
So the match had too many near falls and false finishes for the random bottom of the card tag, but eventually Sonata spat red mist into Tigre's eyes and Storm hit a super kick and won.
Hey, at least Loki lost the goofy bodysuit.
True, yeah.
A big improvement.
Gunner met with Sam Shaw. I tried to keep track of what they were talking about, but finally I just stopped and wrote, they bickered and I don't care. All I know is that Shaw is no longer wearing a shirt. The gimmick is that he got tattoos to match Gunner.
Yeah.
Of course, his tattoos are not a week old. All I know is Sam Shaw apparently went in the tattoo parlor. I don't have any tattoos, but obviously a lot of guys do. And get all kinds of cool designs and artwork and meaningful symbols and whatnot. Shaw apparently walked in the tattoo parlor and said, "Make my entire arm black."
Yeah. That's his tattoo. He's got a black arm.
Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite part of the deal was, like, the reason Shaw got the tattoos in storyline was because he wants to be like Gunner.
Mm-hmm.
And Gunner's telling him, you just got to be yourself. And I'm watching it thinking, no, you should try to be like Gunner. Because being like Sam Shaw has been a complete disaster.
Yeah. Solid point. So we had Bran versus Sam Shaw in a hardcore match.
Yeah. Shaw got rid of the sweater, but he still got his 1980s Dark Crystal music, which I still cannot describe nor explain away.
Yeah. So they brawled outside, and this made it abundantly clear how empty the building was. Everything echoed. It was like they were in a cave. They should have stolen, since they were having a late 90s hardcore match here anyway, should have just stolen New Jack's gimmick and played music the entire time.
Hey, may as well.
Yeah. So eventually, Bram took a powerbomb onto a pile of chairs, but he recovered and hit Shaw with a turnbuckle for the win. And he left, and out came, who's my favorite part of TNA?
It's your girl.
Brittany!
Birthday present for you, Vinny. Apparently she's getting married, so.
Awesome.
She's off the market.
So she came out to show concern to Sam Shaw, and as always, she overacted by 1,000%.
Oh, yeah, it was awesome.
You've never seen a woman so...
Yeah, it was like they said, look around and be concerned.
Yeah,
and so she made sure to look around and be concerned.
Emphasis on look around.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a bird looking for food? This is what Brittany was doing. Looking all directions at once all the time. but always a look of concern.
Oh, yeah.
What did she think she would see?
I don't know. I don't know what she was concerned about. I can't explain any part of this, really. But I do know that they plugged Amazing Race. It's just amazing to me. They're showing Robbie E. And his partner, Brooke Tessmacher.
Yes.
Who is his girlfriend. And if you watch the show, this is abundantly clear. But meanwhile, TNA, knowing, by the way, that they were going to be on this show, decided that they were going to book a storyline where Robbie E. is, I guess, dating Velvet Sky on Tinder.
Yeah. They were handed free advertising on a show that gets at least 10 times the viewers.
6 million viewers the last show, actually. So 6 times.
And they turned it down.
No, they took it, but they decided to book an angle that had nothing to do with the actual show.
And they did not turn down the show, but they turned down any opportunity. I haven't seen the show. But I would imagine, perhaps, I know Robbie E's a pretty entertaining guy. I'm sure at some point something funny is going to happen with him and Brooke on the show. And someone might think, you know what? Maybe next Thursday or next Wednesday, I'll check out their wrestling show. And if they did, not one person would get what they were tuning in for.
No, of course not. This would be like
astounding.
This would be like if Total Divas was on like NBC and it got 6 times the number of viewers that it gets. It got like 6 or 7 million viewers. And WWE decided that they were going to book a storyline where Daniel Bryan was dating like Cameron. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, why the fuck would you do that?
I don't know.
And yeah, these two guys brutalizing themselves in front of 0 fans. It was like a Tim Flowers main event at the BNI.
Yeah, actually. Roode did a backstage promo about how he needed to regain the title. And the Wolves had a backstage confrontation with Team 3D.
Actually, I got to mention the Bobby Roode promo. He said that he had not slept since September 17th.
Yes.
That sounds like a serious medical issue that should be addressed.
Yes. So the Wolves, meanwhile, just started immediately and liberally quoting Ric Flair.
The irony was this was the best promo they've done in their entire TNA run.
Yeah, that's true. They vowed to beat 3D and the Hardys in the match that those teams have made famous. In hindsight, so much of this show was rushed that I don't know why either of these promos they even bothered with.
Yeah, they heavily edited the show. There was too much of the old to the back. I think that I think what happened was the main eventers just decided that they were going to go as long as they wanted, and they probably missed their time cue by about 10 minutes, and the rest of the show suffered as a result. At least the main event was good, but it killed the rest of the show.
That is true. Bobby Roode versus MVP and Kenny King. We mentioned they plugged matches here for Bound for Glory. During this match, they plugged, as I wrote down, EC3, Manic, and somebody else against Japanese dudes from 01.
Wrestle One, but yes.
Wrestle. Okay. Then it was all gone. And to find out who the third TNA guy was, or who any of the Japanese men were, I would have to get up, walk across the room, get the remote, and rewind it. It was not worth it to me. This is a horrible advertisement. If the viewer cannot immediately process the information and remember it, it's no good.
I think that they have resigned themselves to the fact that this show is going to die. And I think that it is interesting that what used to be their biggest show of the year may ultimately do the lowest buy rate in all of TNA history. I mean,
I can't see it not, honestly.
Honest to God, how could this possibly do better than these tape pay-per-views they've been doing? Which get, by the way, like 5 buys.
Yeah.
I mean, how could it possibly do better?
All I know...
I mean, you look at the World Series of Wrestling pay-per-view. What was it? What did they do? The World Series of...
I think that was it, World Cup of Wrestling.
Yeah, the World Cup of Wrestling. Like, you know that card was more exciting than this Wrestle 1 card. And you know that nobody bought that one. So, like, who is buying Bound for Glory? Besides me and Dave.
Here is the only pre-Bound for Glory internet buzz that I have seen. A lot of people posting screen caps of the price of the show, unable to believe that this is how much it actually costs. and refusing to pay. That's bad.
I have not checked my my cable company yet, but I have seen the rumors that it's $57.95, and we're going to have a serious talk if that's the cost of this show.
No, we won't.
And the serious talk is...
You know what side I'm on.
Well, yeah, but...
Let me think about this. Would I rather watch 3 hours... No, I'd rather watch Bound for Glory.
What was the other option?
Total Divas.
Oh, man.
As much as I hate it, it'd be over in an hour. Bound for Glory has train wreck potential.
Actually, there are 2 episodes of Total Divas coming up this Sunday. I don't even know why. They're just airing 2 episodes. Yeah.
Bobby Roode versus MVP and Kenny King. So it was 2 guys beating up one guy for a long time. And then Roode made a comeback and had a terrible brawl with Kenny King. MVP got pinned out of nowhere with a schoolboy. And when I say out of nowhere, I looked up and the bell was ringing and they said MVP was out and I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, they did the exact same finish as they did in the women's match on the same show.
Yeah. And of course it's TNA, so they had no replay.
No.
So now it's King and Roode one-on-one. MVP interfered right in front of the ref and nobody cared. And when I say nobody cared, not only did the referee not do anything about it, but the fans didn't care. So Roode caught King on a dive and he hit the Roode bomb, but then lastly hit the ring and attacked Roode for the DQ. He speared him to death, but they said the stipulation was that Roode had to pin both men to get a title shot.
That's right.
So apparently now, despite winning the match, Bobby Roode would never get a title shot again. And this is so important that it was to the back.
Well, if you recall correctly, as we'll talk about later, Kurt Angle flat out comes out and just says he's going to keep giving Roode chances until he wins a shot at the title.
Yeah.
So they killed their own stipulation there. My big takeaway from this is that last week, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, last week, Bobby Roode made it clear that he wanted to fight Lashley. And Lashley, last week, was all for this. And remember, MVP came up and he prevented this from happening?
Yeah.
And Bobby Lashley was upset because he was wanting to fight?
Mm-hmm.
Now this week, he does everything in his power to ensure that this match won't take place?
I don't know.
That doesn't make any sense.
No. I actually assumed that when he hit the ring, he was going to attack Roode and beat him up and cost the match so Roode would win, but that's what Lashley wanted.
Well, he wouldn't have won anyway because it would have been DQ.
Well, I figured he would get the title match on a DQ. I didn't catch the part about having to pin the guys.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they went to the back so we could get a 20-second promo of Ethan saying he was going to give Spud another chance.
Very important that we had that 20-second promo here, let me tell you.
So Ethan gave Spud another chance. Spud that said they were friends, and he listed a bunch of stuff about Ethan's gimmick and his catchphrases.
By the way, EC3 claimed he was undefeated, and I guess that's true. I really haven't kept track of it, but TNA undefeated streaks is going to be its own chapter in the death of TNA.
That's a good point.
Christian once had an undefeated streak in which he was a 2-time champion.
A 2-time former champion.
Yeah.
He had lost the title twice without ever losing a match.
Yeah. And they once had a match. This is also in the book. TNA once booked a match between 2 men with undefeated streaks. And the stipulation was that whoever lost would still be undefeated. Yes.
All right.
The stipulation was that neither undefeated streak was on the line in a match between 2 undefeated men.
Okay. Whatever. I'm over everything. So, Ethan said it was Spud's fault that Dixie went through a table. You could hear one guy in the crowd asking somebody where their socks were.
Their socks were?
Yeah.
Who didn't have socks on?
I don't know, one of these guys.
Yeah.
I'm guessing, I would guess Spud.
Probably a pretty good guess.
But there was a fan who looked at these 2 men in the ring and determined this is the most important item going on, and that man has no socks on.
Speaking of Spud and his socks and everything else, Spud comes out dressed like Willy Wonka, I guess.
I was going to say the Joker.
The Joker. I don't know who he comes out dressed up as every week.
Yeah.
But he made it very clear during this promo that his name is Rockstar Spud.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen Spud do anything rock and rollish in his entire TNA career.
I have asked this since they started British Boot Camp. What makes this man a rock star?
Well, I believe in British Boot Camp he was actually a guy who was in a band, if I recall correctly. So
right.
he was kind
They
of a
never
rock star.
showed that on American television.
No, they didn't.
They just explained this man is known as Rockstar Spud.
Yes, they have never had a logical explanation for his name, and it really stuck out to me like a sore thumb tonight when he insisted that his name was Rockstar Spud, and I had no idea why. Now, with that said, Spud and EC3 need to be employed somewhere forever because they are both awesome. They were so awesome in this segment that they got 300 people cheering like they were 93,973 people when Spud finally slaps this guy across the face. And I was so infuriated when they did this angle and everybody is going crazy and Ethan Carter fires him and then it's to the back.
Yep. What was the year of their first pay-per-view?
2000 and...
The very first show.
2002.
14 years to the back.
Yeah.
They still haven't learned how to do basic television segments.
That is correct. Or edit, apparently.
Or edit anything.
Because you could have edited
paste
out
anything.
Plenty of stuff on this show.
It really is depressing. It is so depressing.
Can't win them all.
I spent more than a third of my life, not quite, no, about a quarter of my life watching TNA.
Yeah. And the older more than a third. The older you get, the more of your life you'll have spent watching TNA. Vinny, it ain't going to be around much longer. I mean, really.
I might not either.
I mean, maybe they're going to get another 2-year deal, but if it's anything like the last 2 years, I mean, it ain't good, dude. Like, there's no positives about TNA right now.
No.
It's a sad, sad state of affairs that they have worked themselves into. And I've heard a lot of stories over the past couple of weeks from To the Back, ironically. And there's still just stuff going on, and you just shake your head. It's just sad. But anyway, Full Metal Mayhem.
Yeah,
good match.
They did right before this, just 2 quick notes. With about 40 minutes of TV time left to the pay-per-view, they finally ran down the card.
Yes, they did.
I'm actually disappointed, honestly. It would have been more entertaining if they had just never acknowledged any matches.
Never acknowledged there was going to be a pay-per-view on Sunday. Their biggest of the year, their WrestleMania.
Yeah. And they did the angle where Angle walked into the MVP's crew and let them know that Bobby Roode would get more chances.
Yeah.
So there you go. All right, Full Metal Mayhem. Hardys versus Team 3D versus the Wolves. We just spent 5 minutes, I can't even say burying the company, stating facts about the company.
Stating the sad facts of this promotion here.
The dire state it's in and what little hope there is for the future.
Yep.
I don't know what got into these 6 dudes, but they decided, let's go kill ourselves for this company on life support.
Hey, they've every match in their series has been great. And this was the final one, and they had the most gimmicks, and they did the best job with everything.
They beat the fuck out of themselves.
Oh, yeah. 34 minutes.
For a long time.
Yeah.
Too many big, giant spots to list them all, but I think the 2 biggest were they set up a guardrail bridge between the apron and the stairs, and then Davey got powerbombed from the ring over the ropes onto the guardrail.
Yep.
Don't do this, everyone.
No.
It's not healthy. A few minutes later, I think it was Jeff, going to put Bubba through a table with a leg drop.
Yes.
Which for some reason they set the table up upside down. I don't know what they were thinking there. But Jeff jumps off the top rope. Bubba moves, and Jeff goes flying through the table, and the table breaks his fall about 0%. And Jeff just keeps speeding up faster and faster before crashing ass first into the ground. Don't ever do this.
You know, I was looking through the thing here, and I was trying to figure out what was the dumbest spot in the match, or the most dangerous, or the craziest spot, however you want to look at it. And my conclusion was that Jeff Hardy spot right there.
That one came off the worst.
That was the one. That was the same move, essentially, minus the table, where Johnny the Bull ruptured his pisser, whatever the injury that he suffered was.
He tore his urethra.
Tore his urethra off of the...
Yeah.
Of the something or other.
virtually the exact same thing. I will say, I don't know if this is just a particularly crappy table, but if you describe this spot to me, I would say, well, that's stupid, but I have seen worse.
Dude, you know what it was like? Do you know anything about physics?
A little.
Okay. You're aware that the table that your computer is on right now, that solid surface,
Yes.
is mostly empty space.
All right.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
It is as if, for the one time in human history, as Jeff Hardy was going off the top of that post, the atoms in the table rearranged themselves in such a way that he went through it.
Yeah.
And landed on his ass, on his pisser, on his urethra, on the ground.
Yeah. That was definitely the most brutal.
This guy is out of his mind.
Yeah, so there were at least a half dozen other spots of guys falling off ladders and going through tables and doing insane things. Like one of the very first... The match started, and all 6 dudes started brawling everywhere, and within 30 seconds, Eddie takes this big, giant slam right on the apron. Just so bad. So bad for you. So, after a half hour of just complete and utter carnage, it came down to the Wolves and Matt Hardy in the ring on one ladder, and they basically worked together to powerbomb him off that ladder through a table, and they grabbed the belts and won. This came off like what it was, which was 2 guys surviving an absolute war to come out on top and retain their championships.
That's exactly what happened.
Yes.
And, you know, to be fair, I mean, Davey didn't mention this, but he is a fireman.
Yeah.
It is a ladder match. He had an advantage.
That's true.
Yes. Hell of an insane match, I got to say.
They beat the crap out of each other. So the match finishes. It was larger than the crowds had been. I could be mistaken, but I believe that they had to drown out some boos with some piped-in cheers because this crowd was far more familiar with the Hardys and Team 3D and didn't want these small, anonymous firemen to win. Perhaps I'm wrong. But, hey, if you missed this match and you have the means, it's worth taking your time to go back and watch. And I almost never see that anymore.
Yeah. You know, I was thinking about this. I mentioned this yesterday, but it is just amazing to me when you think about all of the things going on with Wrestle 1 and how, TNA changed all of their titles, and it makes news in Japan, and they think that they can go to Japan and run a show and pretend that the titles haven't changed hands, which, of course, is impossible. But they're insisting that, listen, this is how we do our business, quit complaining about how fans know that these aren't the champions. This is how we blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, because an interview aired on their website, which I would bet 98% of the fans that watch Impact never even saw, because there was an interview on the website where they talk about Davey Richards having broken his leg, they felt that it was imperative that they acknowledge it on television here. Even though there was no need to acknowledge it, it made no sense that this guy broke his leg. He's been on TV virtually every week, and he broke his leg, and now he's back wrestling. The idea that should even be mentioned, particularly in a match where he didn't sell his leg at all. Because when they taped the match, nobody knew they were going to acknowledge his broken leg. It just amazes me the things that they feel are just so important that they must be acknowledged. And meanwhile, they can run to Japan and try to pretend all of these people are champions when they're not. Bound for Glory, everybody.
Yes, the most ironic title.
Yeah.
Bound for Unemployment.
It was really scary when somebody, I should know this having wrote the book, but they pointed out that WCW Greed, which I think was the final ever WCW pay-per-view, or at least it was right there at the very end, 50,000 buys.
It's not very many.
50,000 buys is probably 10 times the number of buys that Bound for Glory is going to do. 50,000 buys is just short of the most buys TNA ever had for a pay-per-view.
Really?
Of all time.
That's an amazing fact.
The record was 60,000 for the 2 Joe Angle matches. And WCW's final ever pay-per-view, 50,000. Crazy. So we're going to talk about that, and we've also got the SmackDown 15th anniversary show to talk about. What a celebration of 15 years of this show that was. So we've got that, and then we've got some songs. We will not be joined by the Wanger here tonight. There are 2 episodes of Total Divas, and no time to watch them this evening. I've got this show. I've got to do the law, talking about the book, and then I've got the Dave show later on. So we will do the Total Divas review on Monday night. Wang will be here on Monday, and we will talk 2 episodes of Total Divas. I don't know why they're airing 2 episodes, maybe just to curse me, but that's what they're doing. I hear the Seahawks lost today, Vinny.
Oh, they got their asses kicked.
Really, man.
They got manhandled.
You know, they've had some bad showings, I've heard, and every time I talk to you about it, you're always defending them. Like, oh, you know, it's just they've been facing good teams.
The other time was. This team, I watched that game. Let me tell you, Dallas beat their ass.
Yeah.
You look at this game, you'll see, oh, Dallas won by 6 or 7 points, whatever the final score was. You'll think nail biter. No. Let me assure you, Dallas was the better team.
Wow. What does that mean for our Super Bowl chances?
It's not good. It's not the end of the world. There's, Super Bowl still in February. Still, was it 10 weeks to go in the season? So it's, there's nothing positive to say about it except that it's only 1 of 16 games.
All I know is, did they play Monday? Were the Seahawks playing Monday?
Yes.
Okay, because we've moved the jiu-jitsu school to Main Street Bothell. And so there are all these restaurants and bars that now surround the school. And shockingly, we have not had a Gracie challenge yet, which is amazing to me. But I was in there Monday, and I'm trying to teach class, and about every 5 minutes I just hear, hey! Everybody starts screaming next door. I was like, this is unacceptable. That and the smell of food that just wafts into the building at all times.
Was it good food?
Oh, yeah, it's very good food.
There you go. That's good.
All right, well, let's start with this Bound for Glory show here.
Bound for Glory actually started off as a really, really fun show to watch. And sadly, it kept going. They claim to have sold out, is it Korakuen Hall?
Korakuen Hall. About 2,000 people.
Yeah.
Although there were empty seats all over the place, so I don't know if they just showed up late or what happened.
Apparently, the Japanese are also invisible.
Well, to be fair, there was the big storm, and so it's possible that people bought tickets and then didn't show up.
Yeah. Now, we can make all these jokes, but the fact is, this is so much bigger and more vocal a crowd than they've had in the U.S. lately.
Well, it was bigger, but it was a Japanese crowd, so there were a lot of...
There's a lot of silence, a lot of respectful silence, but when they made noise, it was much more noise than the U.S. fans have made.
Yeah, Taz and Tenay were not there. They did commentary live from Nashville, which was funny because, like, it's TNA, and I would not have been so bold as to just presume everything was going to work. You know what I mean? Like, I could have imagined Bound for Glory going on the air and there not being any audio for 3 straight hours.
Yes.
But it worked, and so they called it. They made sure to mention repeatedly that they were not there, which I don't even know why they did that, since they're not at a lot of shows. And
Taz, at one point, even noted that the wrestling was not live.
He did. He said that.
This is on a delay, but we're live.
Yeah. Their audio, I hate to be an audio snob, but it sucked. I don't know what was going on. They kept peaking. It was very distracting. The production in Korakuen Hall for this show very much looked like a Ring of Honor show. Largely, I think, because I don't think they had an overhead lighting rig. I think they just had the lights in the corners or whatever. But it looked like a better than average independent show.
I will say I enjoyed it much more than a typical TNA broadcast, just from a pure television standpoint, simply because there were much, much, much fewer camera cuts.
Yes. And you know the other reason it was so much fun to watch this show was... it was a lot of stuff that was different.
Yes.
We got to see some new guys.
A lot of new faces.
We got some new faces. We got some new matches. And even if it wasn't like the best show in the world, like you can watch Raw every single Monday night, and it's just like the same stuff every single week.
Yes.
And at least here we got to see some, we saw the new greatest wrestler of all time, for example, Ryota Hama.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw some Minoru Tanaka was on the show. We saw a lot of different faces and a lot of different matches. So
none of the matches were terribly similar to each other.
No.
Each one was unique. You watch Raw, you will usually see the same match 8 times and then a main event.
Yes. I liked it. I thought it was a fun show. They had a 4-sided ring here. If anybody cares, I'm sure some of the TNA hardcores were outraged that the 6 sides were not brought to Japan. But overall, it wasn't like the show of the year or anything like that. But I didn't think it was a bad show, except for a couple of the matches there at the end, which we'll get to. But I had fun.
So it opened with Manic versus Minoru Tanaka. So Manic is teaming with James Storm, who is facing Japanese legend the Great Muta in the main event. But the crowd here still hated Minoru Tanaka more. And they cheered Manic.
Did you see, speaking of James Storm, did you see Dixie's tweet?
About the Storm?
Yeah.
I did.
I mean, come on.
I don't even know what else to say other than I did.
If you didn't see this, everybody, I don't even know what happened. I don't even know how this happens, except it's Dixie Carter and TNA. But she tweeted out a photo of like a satellite shot of the typhoon that is about to ravage Japan. And in the middle of it is photoshopped James Storm's face.
Yeah.
And it reads something like, "A storm is coming." And she tweeted this out. And then almost immediately she deleted the tweet and apologized and wrote something like, this was supposed to be for James Storm or something. I don't even know what she wrote. It was something like that. But I was just like, how? In what planet can someone think that this is a good idea?
I don't know.
It just amazes me. At least she didn't claim her phone was hacked. It was insulting enough. Anyway.
I'm looking for an update. 200,000 flee their homes as super typhoon hits Japan.
Oh, great.
Yeah, that's something,
lovely.
Something to make a big joke out of.
Thank God that she had a funny idea for a tweet.
I'm sure the Japanese fans will appreciate this gag and buy her paper.
I'll bet. Hey, I'm sure that they did in droves.
So anyway, Manic versus Minoru Tanaka. It was funny because, as we know, it's the Japanese crowd, so they're usually quite silent, and then there'd be a big spot and they'd all roar. Yeah.
Who is that?
I'm not sure. Brian's pointing at the network, everyone. They're showing Halloween Havoc 94, and someone came out to sing America the Beautiful or the national anthem, and all I know is he had quite the shirt.
He looked like your dad.
If you say so.
Kinda, didn't he?
No.
Oh, anyway, go on.
A Caucasian male.
Minoru Tanaka. Well, they had the same shirt.
I wish.
All
right. So they did the spot where Manic gets tossed out of the ring, and he goes under and comes out the other side, and he pops up behind Minoru and then hits a neck breaker. I laughed so hard. Poor Minoru had to stand there looking the wrong way forever.
Yeah, I love that somebody snuck up from behind and then hit him with a rear move.
Yeah.
He had to sneak up behind him and then turn his back to hit this move.
That's right. So it was very much like a X Division or an ROH style match, except that it was slower paced and they sold more to make the big moves mean more. This is all positive. And it went back and forth a lot. And then finally Minoru won with a rolling armbar.
The Minoru special.
Yes. And the crowd that had booed him the whole match politely applauded his victory.
Yeah, it was a good opener.
It was fun. Team 3D went into the Hall of Fame on this show, so they had clips of Team 3D, what they could show, which is, of course, only TNA stuff. First one was from 2007 of Team 3D wrestling Rick Steiner and Road Warrior Animal.
That was 2007? I thought it was like 2003.
Maybe it might have been.
I think it was 2003.
I may have gotten the date wrong on this. Animal didn't look good.
I got to find out when this was. Animal didn't look good. Jesus Christ. Did you see Bully?
Bully did not look good. Rick Steiner did not look good.
Rick Steiner and who was it? Animal?
Rick Steiner and Animal versus Team 3D.
All right, let's see when this was. Team 3D versus Rick Steiner and Road Warrior. It was 2007. My God. Wow. That is amazing to me. So I guess you can lose weight fairly quickly.
It is 7 years ago.
I guess that
still.
is 7 years ago. Yeah.
The real takeaway from this. Oh, go ahead.
I was just talking about how fat Bully was.
Bully used to be really, really fat, everybody. He's skinnier now. The real takeaway from this is not how fat the men were. It's how big and lively the crowd was.
Oh, my God. That's what I was thinking, because at first I thought it was 2003, and I was like, I can't believe how popular this place was in 2003. Then it's like, that was 2007? And they showed another one later. They showed this one, and then later they showed one from like 2009 or something like that. The Six Sides of Steel from 2009. And it was kind of one of those things where, like, every now and then WWE will show a recap of something from, like, the Attitude Era. Mm-hmm. And, like, everything looks so hot and everybody looks so cool. And it's just kind of like, wow, what the hell happened to wrestling? Man, watching these clips after watching the last set of television tapings, it's as depressing as you can possibly get. Like, it's the same thing I keep mentioning, like, about getting a new television deal. You're going to get a new TV deal so that you can keep running shows in front of 300 people. The popularity of this company is, like, non-existent in this country. It's depressing. This crowd was packed and hot.
Yeah, it's less accurate to say that TNA is dying. It's more accurate to say they are dead. And
they're dead.
They don't know yet.
They're being kept on life support for some sort of experiment. I don't even know what it is.
EC3 cut a backstage promo. He vowed to name a replacement for Spud on Wednesday and promised his second year in the company would be even better than his first. He went on and on and on and on and on.
Well, the issue with the show was they went short, and so they had to pad the hell out of this with, interviews backstage and video packages. You know who his guy is he's bringing in, right?
I've heard it's Brodus Clay.
It's Brodus Clay.
Does that mean we're going to get Brodus Clay versus Spud?
Well, actually, at the show Thursday when Spud got fired, Brodus Clay came in afterwards and killed Spud.
Oh, there you go.
But they edited it off the show. I guess they figured another week's anticipation would make his debut better. I don't know.
Then Ethan came out for a promo. He talked down to the Japanese like they were all stupid. The crowd booed and also chanted yes.
That was funny.
So Ethan listed everyone he had beaten. He vowed to slam his opponent tonight, and then he tried to get the crowd to chant ham, slam, slam, ham. This was the most grating several seconds of pro wrestling of 2014.
You were so mad.
This was so stupid.
But you didn't know what was to come.
I had no idea.
You didn't know why he was chanting slam, ham.
Do you think the man's name was Ham and not Hama?
Well, no, but he's fat like a pig. Ham.
I am grateful, however, that I got through this because I got to see EC3 versus Ryota Hama, the best match of the year.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I don't know how many of you have seen Ryota Hama. I hadn't. I guess I had in the group shot. Did you see, by the way, the...
If you've seen a shot from space, I'm sure you've probably seen Ryota Hama.
He's quite large. Quick sidetrack. Did you see the group photo of the wrestlers on the card from the Hall of Fame induction?
No.
I know this is typical. It's in the Bound for Glory thread on the board. There's a bunch of photos, and I guess this is typical for Japanese wrestling. But they took everyone who was wrestling on the show, heels, faces, tag team singles. They sat them all down in chairs. They had them look respectfully to the camera and took a big group photo. Mm-hmm. Havoc and Velvet standing right next to each other.
Awesome. Well, she is a heel here in the U.S.
Loki in the back, peeking over Tommy Dreamer in the front.
That's a great idea. Let's put the short people in the back.
It's an amazing picture for several reasons. And over on the left is, in fact, Ryota Hama. And he's between the fact that he's on the over on the side and fully clothed, I did not appreciate his girth.
No, apparently not.
So he came out here. He's a former sumo wrestler. As you quite accurately described him, he looks like the fattest baby you ever saw, stretched out to full-grown man size.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of weight, he's not terribly tall. I'm sure he's under 6 feet. So I'm sure if you put him on a scale, he would not be anywhere close to the heaviest wrestler ever. They tagged him at 500 pounds. I will confidently say he is the fattest wrestler I ever saw.
It's funny because, like, he I don't know how much he weighs, But they were very careful every time they talked about his weight to always say he was almost 500 pounds.
I see.
I was like, can't you just say the guy's 500 pounds? They always had to say he's almost 500 pounds. I don't know why. I guess, as you noted when we were watching the show, I guess Yokozuna was like a lot taller. But Yokozuna ended up being like, he was 700 pounds at the end. So he outweighed Ryota Hama by 200 pounds.
Yeah. He was huge.
I don't think people understand exactly how much weight that is. 700 pounds of man, or even 500 pounds of man. You know, I've mentioned this before when talking about weight, but let's just imagine, Vinny, that you could deadlift 270 pounds.
All right.
Because we were talking about this a few days ago. You could deadlift 270 pounds, and you feel like you're really, really, really strong. And 270 pounds is your max. You know what that means, right? That would mean that you couldn't lift 271 pounds.
Okay, yeah.
Adding 1 pound would be too much for you to lift. So think about the weight involved. A man who weighs 700 pounds. Or Ryota Hama here, 500 pounds. How much weight that is. Every time that he fell down and had to stand up, it was like he's doing like a one-legged squat with 500 pounds. Think about how amazing that is. But yeah, this guy is absolutely enormous. The legend is, and this is apparently true, that he spends $70 US per day at McDonald's eating.
Really?
So think about how much food you could get at McDonald's for $70.
How badly I want to throw up right now.
And he eats that every day. I don't know how he's alive.
I am looking at some pictures of Yokozuna now. Yoko had fatter legs.
Yes.
Hama's upper body is much fatter.
He's fat everywhere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like a big baby.
Like a big baby. But he can move.
Oh yeah.
He can stand and he can run, as it were.
Did a rolling senton.
Did manage to not kill the guy.
Missed a big splash.
Yeah. So he's working poor Ethan over. He hits the big avalanche in the corner, and Ethan drops to his ass with his, sitting up in the bottom rope.
It's the greatest spot ever.
And Hama charged to the opposite corner, and then charged across the ring and hit the running avalanche.
Yes.
And his big giant ass hit Ethan in the head so hard.
Oh yeah.
He nearly ass-capitated him.
We brought Whitty into the room to see Hama. She's a big fan of big, heavy guys, and she laughed so hard, and she squealed in terror when this running avalanche occurred.
So did I.
Yes.
And Ethan, probably just happy his head was still attached, just rolled over and leaned into the camera with a glassy-eyed stare.
The best part is Hama is very fat.
If we haven't mentioned that.
I think that if it were required for him to run a mile, he would die. But over a very short distance,
4 to 5 steps,
this man can run really, really fast.
Yeah.
If there was like a 3-yard dash, he'd beat most men. And so he gets in the corner, and he ran so fast, and he smashed Ethan Carter right in the fucking face. It looked like he killed the guy. And then the best part was, after nearly killing him, in the most gentle manner possible, he gently rolls him to his back, and he gently gets on his knees and covers him. I laughed so hard watching this spot. We rewound it like 3 times, watching it over and over again. It was so great.
So I realized no one bought this show.
Sad.
But if somebody bought this and has the technology, please give me a gif of this. I need Hama smashing Ethan's head, Ethan's glassy-eyed stare into the camera, and if you want, you can get the pin in there too. But it was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I loved later when EC3 tried to slam him, which of course failed.
Yes.
And Hama fell on him in such a manner that literally when they say you need to get a spatula to peel somebody off the canvas, Like, he became an omelet is what happened here when EC3 fell on him. And I texted somebody after the match just to see if EC3 was alive, because I was a little concerned, because he was squished repeatedly by this 500-pounder. And I'm not talking like fake squishing.
No.
He was squished by this man repeatedly. And I was told that he wanted to go out and make it look real. Like,
that didn't answer your question.
What an idiot. No, he's fine.
Okay.
But like, good God almighty.
So,
Make it look real with someone small. Like Velvet Sky.
yes.
Not a 500-pounder.
So, Ethan scored with a kick to the dick.
A dirty kick to the dick.
A dirty kick to the dick. What's that for Urban Wrestling?
I think it was.
Yeah.
It's in a song somewhere.
But he scored with a dirty kick to the dick, at which point Whitney asked, would that even work on him?
I don't think it would.
Well, here's the thing. No, the kick would in fact hit fat, but then the fat would hit testicle.
I see.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of that.
So, and then he hit his headlock with DDT and won. This was an excellent wrestling match.
I was a big fan of this match. It was my $44.95 was justified by this match here. Yes, I am easily amused, and I am not regretful. And by the way, it was $44.95 for those of you that saw the screenshot of the guy whose cable company wanted to charge him $57.95 for this show.
Skip an extra, was that 20% or something?
Yes, my cable company charged $44.95 for the standard definition and the HD version. So if I wanted to, I could have paid $44 to not watch it in HD.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they even have a non-HD channel in that case? I don't know. Great match.
It showed Team 3D beating Beer Money in 2009. What I got out of this is that Robert Roode used to have a lot of hair, and TNA used to have a lot of fans.
And hey, they both lost them at the same time.
I guess they did.
Maybe he needs to grow his hair back.
That might be the key. MVP did a promo talking about taking a drastic pay cut to stop being a sports entertainer and go to Japan and be a pro wrestler instead.
It's funny because when he first mentioned it, I was like, you better be talking about WWE because you ain't taking a drastic pay cut to go to Japan this time around.
Frankly, I appreciate the sentiment, but probably would have been better off not saying that either way. Just say you left sports entertainment to go be a pro wrestler.
Yeah.
So we had MVP versus Cosma Sakamoto. Crowd did recognize MVP and pop huge for his music. Largely a comedy match, with Sakamoto playing a total coward. The crowd booed him.
This is Sakamoto of Tensai fame, for those of you wondering.
Should I know what that is?
You don't remember when Tensai?
Lord Tensai?
Lord Tensai. He had.
Oh, that's right.
He
had
second.
a little. That's right.
That was him. That was Sakamoto.
Well, there you go then. So they did a spot like where he would cling to the guardrail and MVP would grab him by both feet and try to drag him into the ring. And that didn't work, so MVP just hauled off and booted him in the face. And pretty much a squash. And I did like the finish. Actually, I should say the built up to the ball and elbow, and MVP missed it. Then Sakamoto tried it, and MVP got the knees up, and MVP finally hit the move. And then Sakamoto ran wild with a bunch of strikes while MVP was on his knees. And then MVP returned the favor by hitting the shining big boot for the win.
Yep. I thought this was all right.
It was perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, it wasn't great, but like MVP, MVP was far more athletic here than he normally is. He supposedly has a bad knee, but he did a kip up, and he was working his ass off here. So I thought he did a good job, and match was fine.
Samoa Joe cut a promo about being X Division champion,
which he's not,
carrying the banner for the division, and wanting to represent it well in Japan.
Somebody on Twitter asked a very good question, which I don't have an answer for, and that was, why were the American Wolves, who could have had a great match on this show here in Japan, why were they and Bobby Lashley removed from the show over concern that they were not the champion right now, and they still put Velvet Sky and Samoa Joe on the show?
I don't know.
I don't know either. It is a mystery.
Why does TNA do anything?
I don't know. It is a mystery.
Yes. So, it was Samoa Joe versus Loki versus Kasayashi. Crowd was into everything, saying Joe's going to kill you, and also chanted Let's Go Loki, and then This Is Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So what this match was, in a nutshell, was there would be 2 or perhaps 3 dudes in the ring, and they would all hit each other really fucking hard.
That was the match.
Yeah. And then one guy would leave, and they do some moves, and they start hitting each other again. And this went on for a while. And finally, Loki hit the cartwheel kicked and knocked Hayashi out of the ring. And then he tried some kind of slam on Joe, but Joe stood behind and hooked the choke for the win. It actually came off as a pretty anticlimactic finish.
It was. The finish just came like completely out of nowhere. And I guess we can now officially report that the current TNA Linear X Division champion is Samoa Joe, even though the actual champion right now is Loki.
All right.
So they're going to have a match. I don't even know where. They have no more shows.
Correct. That is correct. So that was that. We had a video package on Bully Ray finally putting Dixie through a table. I guess this is where part of Team 3D's Hall of Fame induction. I should have mentioned Joe cut a promo saying that he went back and forth from English to Japanese, but said that TNA and Wrestle One would take over the world. This was false. At least half false.
I don't think either one of them is going to take over the world.
Yeah. Tommy Dreamer talked about inducting Team 3D into the Hall of Fame and getting one more match against his friends in Japan, and because he is Tommy Dreamer, he was on the verge of tears.
Well, by the way, I just want to mention once again what Vinny just said. Tommy Dreamer did a promo talking about inducting Bully and Devon into the Hall of Fame. And by the way, I should know that the TNA Hall of Fame currently has 4 people, and only one of them technically works for the company right now. But that's beside the point. But yes, he talked about his best friend, Bully Ray, and Devon, and he was so proud to induct them into the Hall of Fame, and he was so excited to work for them tonight. Just remember that.
All right. An All Wrestle One match. Hijo del Pantera and Andy Wu versus Yusuke Kodama and Jiro Kurosho.
It's Yosuke Kodama.
Damn it.
They do the names backwards. It's Japan.
I see.
And Kuroshiro Jiro.
Yeah. All right. Did my best, everyone. Now, thankfully, Dave had their names. I could get their names from his report. TNA flashed up graphics for like a half second.
Literally, it was a half second. I got Yosuke
K's
down
and I's and
gone.
O's, and it went away.
Yeah. Very wacky match.
It was very wacky. One of them is doing the Chris Ryzik gimmick with the mirror.
And he wore a jacket, a suit jacket, the entire match.
He wrestles in his jacket, which is a fantastic idea. Can't
Why?
believe. What?
Why?
Because no one else does it. It's a cheap, easy way to set yourself apart.
Well, that is a... no one else does it. That is true.
That is true.
That I cannot deny.
So, this match is not my cup of tea. A lot of people are going to go crazy for it. For my athletically, it was great. They did all kinds of amazing stuff and dives and kicks, and it was very high-paced and all action and no time to rest or breathe. I thought it came off really choreographed, kind of hard to get into, but, like I say, other people will like this a lot more than me. It was a mix of Lucha Libre and an American tag style. They had a hot tag and everything, and eventually, I guess they're the heels, but the dude with the jacket hit a huge flip dive from the top rope to the floor, and then his partner got the win with a twisting moonsault.
I liked Taz, had no idea what to talk about during this match, and so he was constantly making comments about how a man with a name like Andy Wu should be working at a laundromat.
Yeah, he said that.
What the hell is that supposed to mean?
I believe it's a racist joke.
They had a pretty fun little match. I didn't think it was exceptional or anything like that. There was a spot where Pantera, I think, hit Kodama with a dive into the barricade, and Kodama just started screaming, "Fuck!" over and over again.
Yes.
I don't know why.
Including at one point pointing to the other wrestler.
Yes.
Just shouting, "Fuck."
Yeah. So, it was fine.
We had the official Team 3D Hall of Fame video. Considering they cannot use any ECW or WWE footage, it was pretty good.
I don't know what they're going to do with this because it's not on the website right now, and I don't know if it's going to end up on the website. You would think they would want to do something with it because it looked like Team 3D did a good Hall of Fame induction speech.
Mm-hmm.
They had everybody there, and
what's amazing to me about this is they both gave great speeches, but they managed to do a lot of thank yous without mentioning or even hinting at any single person who does not currently work for TNA.
Well, They're professionals.
Yeah, I guess so.
Although I should note that after their match, they threw a shout-out to the Bullet Club, which was edited off the show.
A shout-out or a challenge?
I don't really know because there is a New Japan show tonight, so they are in Tokyo, and I presume they could show up at the show this evening and be part of, because Jared is now in the Bullet Club.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll find out tonight, but at the end of their match when they said, we got 2 words for you, the 2 words were originally Bullet Club.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but they edited that out, and we just got thank you. So I really had 4 words for us.
I suppose so. Maybe they were thanking the Bullet Club. Tommy Dreamer and Abyss versus Team 3D. Tommy got another new Man in the Box knockoff for his ring music. He came out dressed up like Terry Funk with the headband and the towel. So they had a garbage match.
It's called Guy in a Crate.
Good call.
It's the name of it.
So they wrestled for a little bit just to kill some time, and then literally they all just stopped wrestling and left the ring and started throwing weapons in.
Yeah.
And they had chairs and kendo sticks and signs and a table and a bunch of other stuff.
Hey, fans were super into it.
The crowd
That's what
was
they wanted to see.
super into this. That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. I also like when they chanted Abyss's name with a Japanese accent, so it came out Abyss.
Yeah, Abyss.
Yeah.
He doesn't have another name, so they
round-
couldn't say it backwards.
It almost rhymed with Tommy.
They could have yelled Abyss Chris,
Chris.
because that's his name.
That's true. That's true. So the actual wrestling when they did it was very slow. There was a point where Team 3D tried to whip Abyss into the ropes, and he threw on the brakes and whipped them into each other. It took them much longer to execute than it took me to explain it. Much, much longer. So Taz is talking about how he once had a match in this building with Gypsy Joe.
Doesn't surprise me one bit.
And they did a bunch of stuff, and Abyss took a bump in attacks.
Here are my takeaways from the match, Vinny. I'll make this review exciting.
I was about to get to them.
So first off, I was thinking about this. When they do the what's up spot, you know when they do that?
Yes.
They come off the top with a headbutt.
To the nuts.
To the nut. A dirty headbutt to the nut.
Yeah.
Do you know when the what's up commercial first aired?
Like 96 or something.
I believe it was football season 2000.
Okay, yeah.
That is still 14 years ago.
Yeah.
Which means if there are any TNA fans watching under the age of probably 16, sophomores in high school, they have no fucking idea why Devon Dudley is screaming, "What's up?" and shaking his head and wagging his tongue before headbutting a man in the genitalia.
Right.
Maybe this spot could be retired. And then the point of the whole thing I was talking about earlier was the finish saw Abyss grab all of his thumbtacks. And for some reason, he had golden thumbtacks. I don't know why.
They were very large and very shiny.
They were solid gold thumbtacks, which, by the way, why would you waste that on a hardcore match? But he sprinkles them into the ring, and so, of course, you know what happens. He ends up being stomach first backdropped into him. And actually, all he hits are his hands. He missed the thumbtacks. And then they give Tommy Dreamer, was it the 3D?
I believe so.
I believe they gave him the 3D into the thumbtacks. On this show, both Tommy Dreamer and Bully Ray did promos talking about how they were best friends and how Bully Ray said his best friend in the entire world was not Devon, although I guess technically Devon's his brother. His best friend in the world was Tommy Dreamer. And he would not have a career if it was not for Tommy Dreamer. If it were not for Tommy Dreamer coming and backing him up, he might be a strip club bouncer right now. I don't know. But after all of these interviews about what a great guy each man thought the other man was, Team 3D gives this dude a 3D into some fucking thumbtacks?
Yes.
Wow.
The answer is yes.
That's not very nice.
Well, they're dicks.
Complete dicks. It's the old saying, if they did that to their friend, imagine what they would do to their enemy.
I guess so.
Poor Tommy Dreamer.
So he got pinned with a 3D.
And may have cried
It's a safe
I'm
bet.
not sure.
Velvet Sky cut a backstage promo about her first trip to Japan.
Was this it?
What?
Her first trip to Japan.
As far as I know.
Okay. I was barely paying any attention because I was writing all of these comments about how this was a WWE promo, just worse.
All I could think was, what the hell did she do to her eyebrows?
Well, she painted them on.
That's not even well, I'm sure it's accurate, but it doesn't do justice to what it looked like. She appeared to have shaved her eyebrows completely off and then drawn them back in with a Sharpie. They were just black scribbles above her eyes.
It was bad lighting was one of the main problems.
Yeah, the lights were on. They were much better in the dark.
Wow.
So she was talking about how everyone said she should be afraid of Havoc, but then she said, bring it on. She said this with no confidence, and the camera stayed on her for a while, and it went away. This was bad.
No, this was worse than bad. This was that WWE promo where like they write a terrible promo for somebody who does not know how to recite lines, and then they attempt to recite the lines, and it just comes off horribly. This was very bad. It was better than the match.
Yeah, I was going to say. So Havoc wrestled Velvet Sky. Velvet's offense early was to do a bunch of top rope axe handles. Or maybe middle rope, but either way.
Vinny, you don't understand the complex psychology involved in this match, clearly.
No.
She went to each corner and did a axe handle.
Right.
Then the monster got the heat. Then she made a comeback and decided she was going to do a fifth axe handle off the top rope. And it was one too many.
I see.
And she was caught and bear-hugged to death. Which is, in fact, exactly what happened. She was bear-hugged to death. She tapped out due to bear... She flew all the way across the ocean to submit to a hug.
Yeah. So, at least in her comeback, Velvet did hit a head scissors and a cross body, and those both came off okay.
Yeah.
So, 6 months ago, I probably would have given this deep negative stars. But the truth is, Rosa Mendez would shave her head to have a match this good.
Oh, yeah.
So, 1/4 star.
Now, what about Velvet yelling about how she's crazy?
I didn't say that, yes. Velvet ran, I guess you could call it running wild for a bit. And then when she got cut off, her way of selling, her way of expressing to the audience and the viewers at home that she was in pain and suffering was to go to one knee, look at the referee, make the circular motion with her finger pointing to her own head,
Yep.
and say, she's crazy.
I don't even know why. I have no explanation as to why she was shouting she's crazy.
That was very bad.
Yeah.
And she has also been doing this for a long time.
A long time.
James Storm did a promo from a temple somewhere saying he was looking to recruit more people. And the main event was Storm and Sonata versus Great Muta and Tajiri.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Muta's pre-match headdress was a giant bug.
It was awesome. He looked like Admiral Akbar.
I guess. Tajiri and Muta are a great team. They both are crazy men who strike weird poses and then spit mist together.
Yeah.
So Tajiri is, of course, has destroyed himself, and he can't do very much in the ring. He did what he could for a while and tagged out. And Tajiri and Sonata did some fun stuff. Then they had a callback to the first match where two guys went under the ring. I like to think they did that on purpose. And Tajiri ended up under the ring getting mist spat on him, and emerged with his face all blue. And the heels worked him over for a while. And eventually Muta got what I guess you'd call a hot tag. Didn't last long.
Man, he's so limited.
Yes, he is.
Like he is moving real bad.
Yeah.
Like I think the Great Khali may be more mobile than the Great Muta right now.
No, but it's close.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Hmm.
But it's close. Can you imagine Khali hitting a Shining Wizard?
Well, no, but I can imagine him walking, and he does that a lot better than the Great Muta
There
right
was
now.
a point where, this is the very beginning before the wrestling even began, he removed his headdress and began to weeble and wobble and almost fell down.
He did a lot of weebling.
It's part of his gimmick now. He's worked it in. He makes it, rather than make him look immobile and about to fall down, he's just crazy.
Yeah.
So Finish to this all was actually quite awesome. Storm disappeared. The ref got bumped. Sanada and Tajiri ducked each other's missed shots. And Sanada went up top, but he jumped off, and Muta and Tajiri were together, and they double misted him. Red and green. And then Tajiri hit the execution kick, and Muta hit a Shining Wizard for the win. Finish was awesome. Rest of it was a match. And then afterwards, Storm dumped Tajiri out, and he tried to choke Muta with a rope. And Manic ran out, but then Team 3D came out to make the save, and Storm got misted and 3D'd to end the show.
Yeah, it was not much of a main event. I mean, poor Muta can't do anything, and it was a little bit weird because there were people chanting for James Storm, and the announcers are trying to explain that there is a TNA contingent there, which, by the way, was true. I was told that there were TNA fans that went to Bound for Glory from all over the world, like a whole bunch of different countries, which think about that, by the way. Talk about the most
depressing.
Loyal fans in the entire world. But anyway, they were blaming TNA fans, but the reality was probably it was Japanese fans that knew that Tajiri had turned heel on Wednesday.
Yes.
Might be why he was booed in this particular match. But yeah, it was not bad. It was I don't know. It was
they did what they could.
They did the best they could. Nobody was all that excited for the match. I did like that it told a good story in the sense that, you know, all the stuff going on with Muta and Sanada, and they wrapped it up here. Muto got his big win. They did the double mist. The finish was good. So it was fine. It wasn't, hey, when you think about the history of TNA and all the main events they've done that involve guitars and powder and all this other stuff, there was a ref bump, but on the grand scheme of pay-per-view main events for TNA, this was not the worst one of all time.
No. Oh, God, no. Jesus, no.
Nowhere even close.
No. And then the last thing they did, they wrapped up the show.
This. I don't even know what it was.
They wrapped up the show, and then the TNA graphic came up on the screen. Then we heard a car horn honking and a man laughing.
He was chuckling. I think it was Taz, but I don't know.
Your theory is a good one. Maybe he was doing the whole commentary bit from his car.
Yes.
And wanted the world to know.
Yes. There was a couple of honks and then some chuckling, and the show went off the air. Which I guess is reminiscent of the first UFC, which opened with a belch.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, TNA Impact. A pointless show. It's not, in a way, it was more sad and less sad than last week.
So are you telling me it was a show?
Yeah, I guess. It was less sad because it was not so blatantly held in front of an empty arena. But it was more sad in that it just felt like this is a company that is about to go into limbo.
It is.
That's the most charitable term I can use. And this is their final steps.
By the way, one thing before we go any further, because I just want to, I don't want to forget to mention this. 3 of you donated $200 each to Whitney's Whale Scout fundraiser. And we are going to be kicking off the guest hosting of the Bryan and Vinny Show probably next week. So if you donated, I will be emailing you sometime within the next few days. And I'll start setting it up. Obviously, we tape very late, so we're going to have to work around some schedules or figure something out. But that'll be starting next week. And all of you that donated $50 and are getting the signed copies of issue number 1 and issue number 1000, those were just printed today on high-quality, beautiful, glossy paper, and they will be going out in the next few days as well. So if I owe any other perks, I'll be getting those out to people as well. All right, go ahead.
So, Kurt Angle came out for a promo. As I noted, I'm sorry, that was in the pre-show audio test. Kurt Angle said pro wrestling had never been better in any company anywhere. A lie on every level. He called out Lashley, said he'd given MVP and Kenny King the night off. Said Lashley was required to defend his title at all times.
What does that mean?
I guess like after he brushes his teeth or when he's washing the car. It's the 24/7 rule. So Lashley said he had turned down Bobby Roode's request for a rematch because Roode had already gotten his chance and lost. And then Lashley challenged Kurt to a fight. And Bobby Lashley and Kurt Angle had a great stare down.
What a shocker.
Yeah. And eventually, Kurt vowed they would fight someday, but not today. He booked a 4-way for the top contender spot between Eric Young, Jeff Hardy, Austin Aries, and Bobby Roode. And Lashley was not happy about Roode being there, and by the time this was done, this segment had done a great job of making me want to see Kurt Angle versus Bobby Lashley.
I loved when, I think it was Taz, I think it was Taz, but somebody was like, oh man, Kurt Angle's stacking the deck against Bobby Lashley. I was like, stacking the deck? He's chosen 4 guys who Lashley has already beaten.
Yeah.
It's not stacking the deck.
And he's eliminating 3 of them.
That's right.
Lashley has to beat all 4 of them.
There are 4 guys he has already beaten who are going to beat the shit out of each other, and the survivor is going to go against Lashley for the second time.
Yeah.
This is not stacking the deck.
They recapped Team 3D's induction into the Hall of Fame from Bound for Glory.
Yeah.
Didn't really occur to me the first time, but watching this, all I could think was, these dudes, they already had to go on a long plane flight to Japan. Now they got to get in whatever formal wear they could squeeze in their suitcase and hang out on the tables in this cafeteria or wherever they are while Team 3D pretends to be honored. What a miserable time this must have been. Just not wanting to be there, not able to wait for it to be done.
I was laughing that Joe was laughing about something. I don't even know what. And then they had a shot of Loki, who looked about maybe 12, maybe 13, I'm not sure. Looked like a little kid.
Always does. Matt Hardy and Magnus had a wacky meeting backstage, challenged each other to a match. Madison Rayne versus Havoc.
I will say,
thumbs down.
Before we bury it, Madison did cut a promo beforehand, and I thought that by TNA women's standards, it was a very good promo. She didn't sound bitchy. She didn't sound whiny. She just calmly stated her case. I don't know what the hell her case was. I wasn't paying attention, but I didn't think this was a bad promo.
Think about what you just said for a second.
No, I was fixated on her delivery. I was just like, this ain't bad. Usually they're crying or they're yelling or they're shrieking, you know?
Yeah. So, first of all, Madison comes out, and they're trying to do this fancy entrance where she comes out on stage and the cameraman runs up the ramp at her and then goes behind her. But their camera is very cheap and shaky. Looks very low rent.
Maybe the guy had one leg shorter than the other. Is that possible?
It is. It could be. So they had a bad match. It was bad enough that they tried to edit some spots out, and TNA never tries to edit anything. And they did some fake stuff, and then Havoc won with a chokeslam.
Did some fake stuff?
They did some fake stuff.
What does that even mean?
Well, it means they did stuff that looks fake.
I see.
Didn't realize that would need explanation.
Well, they did fake stuff in every match on this show.
Yeah, but it wasn't always this fake.
I see.
They did very fake stuff in this match.
I don't mean to be burying Havoc every time she comes out, but man, she's bad. And Madison, I think, is like a perfectly acceptable women's wrestler, and she could not save this. It was a struggle. Whenever there's a bad match, like the empty crowd looks even worse, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dead crowd, choke slam finish that they call the Harlot Slayer.
Yeah, no, it's a choke slam. I'm not going to call it that. It's a choke slam.
Harlot Slayer.
Angle and Devon had a conversation about the flight to Japan and the Hall of Fame. Eric Young cut a flat, boring backstage promo about the 4-way tonight. He talked about having better odds here than the night he won the title.
You know what's funny is whenever they start talking percentages, it always means there is a 0% chance I'm going to like the promo.
Pretty much.
It's amazing.
I just like he says, well, I've got a 25% chance tonight, and the night I won, I had a 5% chance.
What the fuck does that mean? Is it a battle royal?
I assume that he had a battle royal and that we are supposed to remember this.
Let's find out. There's an Eric Young in baseball. I was unaware of that.
There's probably 1,000 Eric Youngs out there.
All righty.
Eric Young with a newsletter.
Eric Young. By the way, he has got a Wrestling Observer Newsletter Award. Are you aware of that?
I'm assuming it's for worst match.
Well, it's not really his fault. It was the worst worked match of the year 2006, the TNA Reverse Battle Royal.
Yeah.
On Impact.
There's a lot of worst matches in TNA that were not really the fault of the guys involved.
Yeah.
Remember the Chris Harris, James Storm blindfold match?
I do.
That was awful.
All right, list of TNA World Heavyweight Champions. Let's see. Eric Young beat Magnus. If Magnus had been counted out or DQ'd, he would have lost the title. It does not say what the setup is. So I will do that while you continue on.
Speaking of Magnus, he wrestled Matt Hardy. I enjoyed this. A perfectly competent little pro wrestling match.
They really did.
There's a spot early on outside where Magnus grabbed Hardy for a powerbomb on the floor, and I got very scared.
Yes, he won a battle royal to become the #1 contender.
Oh, thank God we saw that mystery. So Magnus has Hardy up for a powerbomb, and I thought, oh God, he's going to slam him on the floor and it's going to suck. And then he kind of bonks him into the ring post. Okay, that wasn't too bad. And then he threw him into the ring apron very, very, very hard.
We watched this the exact same way. He teased power slamming him into the apron, and I was like, oh my God. And then he rammed him into the post instead, and I breathed a sigh of relief, and suddenly just power bombs him right on the edge of the apron. I was like, man, what an idiot.
Oh, Matt made his comeback. Magnus got caught using the ropes on a pinfall. Finish was actually funnier now than it was when they taped it, because Magnus tried something jumping off the middle ropes, and Matt went all Randy Orton on him and hit a RKO in midair, just like it was any other Vine. And they claimed it was a twist of fate, but it wasn't. So, yeah, Matt won.
Hey, that's an easy Vine right there, everybody. Just replace Matt Hardy with Randy Orton, and you win.
There you go.
I did think this was a fun little match. Matt looked good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fine.
That was really good. Bromance and Angelina Love versus Crazy Steve and Rebel and Nux. Robbie E is off in the Amazing Race, so they just put DJZ in a spot, and he's tagging with Jesse and apparently dating Velvet. Jesse has been doing this for 3 years. He's awesome.
He is very good.
He is really, really, really good at this.
I take credit for it.
Why?
I helped train Shiloh, who has worked a match with Robbie E.
Aha!
And I'm sure taught him everything that he knows.
And all right. Well, there you go. So, Crazy Steve went to sexually assault Angelina, but Jesse, like a hero, saved the damsel in distress.
Yep.
And Steve cut him off and hit a diving DDT for the win. Wrong man did the job, and the wrong man also went over.
Yeah, I was amused by Nux doing a spot where he put not violent, what the fuck am I talking about? DJ Z over his knee, and then he violently and vigorously spanked him.
Yes.
Over and over again. That was kind of creepy.
I've seen a lot of wrestlers worse than Crazy Steve. Many.
Sure.
Many wrestlers worse.
But his gimmick makes him the worst.
It's hard to think of a guy more annoying.
It's absolutely like the worst gimmick. And every now and then I see him do something and I'm like, this guy is actually very talented.
Yeah.
And he's probably a really good worker, but he's Crazy Steve. And by the way, he did a cannonball and land on his head, and I was like, why didn't they just call him Stupid Steve?
That would be a better gimmick.
It's 2 S's, right?
Yeah.
Stupid Steve is better than Crazy Steve. And I've also seen many, 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 many girls worse than Rebel. And keep in mind, I think she's had 3 matches.
Yes.
And actually, when this was taped, because she broke her arm in that other match, this might have been only her 2nd match ever. It's not bad.
I don't know.
And this may have been Steve's first ever win.
I don't care.
Or I've blocked all the rest of them out of my mind.
Roode was backstage cutting a very generic promo when Aries thankfully interrupted. And they were all respectful about having a great match tonight, but they agreed it would be every man for himself. EC3 came out. It was the big reveal of his new bodyguard, and he didn't even talk about it at all. He just walked out and then pointed to the back, and out walked Brodus Clay. And the announcers were going off about how they couldn't say his name because the Carters wouldn't let them. What it sounded like they were saying was, we can't say his name because he's a leftover from a bigger company and they'll sue us.
That's right.
Which is the fact.
I think they probably could have said it's the artist formerly known as Brodus Clay, because they've done that with guys before the first time before they give him the new name.
Yes.
But they didn't do that here.
No.
Not taking any chances right now.
No. His name is Tyrus now.
Dressed as Snoop Dogg's bodyguard again.
Yes.
Way better than the dancing dinosaur, I'll say that.
The dancing dinosaur was fun like once. But, yeah. He is still a big, scary guy. There's no question about that.
Oh, yeah.
So Ethan is going off about how Bully Ray should not be in the Hall of Fame. Then it occurs to him that he has beaten everyone in the Hall of Fame. The prestigious TNA Hall of Fame. It's hard to say it without laughing.
One guy remains in the company. Everybody else is in WWE. Well, I guess Team 3D may be back, but...
Yeah. Is Angle still with the company, technically?
Actually, you know what? I think his contract is expired, but I think he's going to be back.
So they were running their mouths when Devon came out for to challenge Ethan to a fight. And then Bram appeared and attacked Devon with a trash can.
Bram!
Yeah.
He was repeatedly smashing Devon's leg with a trash can lid. It was hilarious.
So they went to break, and when they came back, EC3 and Tyrus were still out there.
It just came off as wasting time at this point.
Oh, the whole show's a waste of time. Ethan declared himself the winner over Devon, and he said Tyrus would have his first match tonight. It was supposed to be Tyrus versus Shark Boy. They could not find Shark Boy backstage. That Pat Kenny found him on a couch eating a box of donuts.
Yeah, Pat Kenny goes backstage and he says, "We've been looking for you for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was like, so you're a producer for a fake wrestling show?
Yeah.
Did EC3 fill you in that this was going to be Tyrus's opponent and now you're back looking for him because you're an agent?
I think he said something about how I've set Tyrus up with a match.
I see.
That's fine. So, yeah, Shark Boy's gimmick is that he is fat.
What a great gimmick.
There's worse, man. There's worse things to have.
Can I call him Whale Boy?
So he came out there, and I was going to make a joke about how he may have been fatter than Brodus. And
Wrong.
Well, he's not. But they were also making, I forget what the setup was, but they started talking about Notre Dame football coaches. They said, Shark Boy may be fatter than Charlie Weiss. And that's much funnier than saying he's fatter than Brodus Clay. Charlie Weiss is really fat, everybody. So they had a short match. Tyrus squashed him and won with the chokeslam. Second person in the show to win with a chokeslam. And that was that.
Shark Boy being fat gimmick sucks.
Hey, it's working again.
It is?
He's working again.
Oh, he's working again.
Yeah.
Probably for one set of tapings.
I bet.
At $100 a shot or something.
Yeah.
Probably more than that, to be fair.
Tag team series recap video. And then the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
This was like if they took a college student and they gave him full access to an editing studio and just said, go hog wild.
And a lot of drugs.
Any effect that you want, go for it.
So,
and he did.
I can only assume that epileptic seizures by the thousand are going off across the country. There were strobe lights and zoom-ins and like a guy would be talking and half his face would move and the other half wouldn't. Anything to distract you from what the wolves are actually saying. Not good.
What were they saying? Because I was...
They're going to beat everybody. Yeah.
Great.
So, yeah, they're doing a 8-team tournament to find new contenders for the tag belts. Main event, Eric Young versus Jeff Hardy versus Austin Aries versus Bobby Roode.
Good little match here. I like this.
There's nothing to complain about here at all. Eric Young, perhaps he is on that steak and eggs diet as well. He's noticeably gaining mass.
No, I'm not gaining mass.
I see.
Just getting skinnier.
Eric Young is gaining mass. They hit a bunch of dives. Aries tried to win by a triple countout, which would have been awesome, actually. But it was not to be. Did 100 big moves. Everyone started missing top rope moves.
What I loved about this match is they had a bunch of cool dive spots early, and dudes are flying over the top rope and crashing and burning and all that kind of stuff. Legitimately, I mean... Actually, even more so later in the match, it looked like a car wreck. But anyway, all these guys are doing crazy dives and crashing and burning. And then later, Jeff Hardy goes to do, I don't know what the real term is, but Buddy used to always call it the headstand spot in the corner.
Yeah.
And then you drop kick the guy who's laying against the ropes. But he goes for the drop kick, and the dude moved out of the way, and he landed flat on his back. That looked more painful than any other spot on this entire show, I think. Like he killed himself. But yeah, at the end, there was a spot where they all missed about 100 different dives and crashed right in the middle of the ring. And cool spot where Roode did a kick out of a cradle right into a crossface. It was good.
So Hardy and Young got eliminated simultaneously when Aries and Roode hit their finishers and pinned them. So now it's a one-on-one match, and they had a fun little one-on-one match for about, 3 minutes. And Roode avoided several brainbusters and finally won with a Roode bomb. And Hardy and Young returned, and they all celebrated together, and that was that.
Yeah, good little match. Bobby Roode came out of it looking like the man. All raise each other's hands. It was very nice. This was not in any way a blowaway show. And in some ways, it was kind of just like a nothing happening show because it's a lame duck show. But it was a good main event, and it was very refreshing compared to Raw.
Well, yes.
So,
God, yes. Jesus, yes.
If you want to do your comparisons, I'd rather watch this show these days. Well, I don't know. It's hard to say.
No. Raw, Impact is much better than Raw. Substantially.
All right, fine. I think in many ways they're about the same. One is 3 hours. One can feel like 3 hours. They both have guys that can do good matches. They both have guys that can do good promos. But like neither of them are blowing me away. None of them are blowing me away and getting me all excited for the next match that's coming up. I don't even know what the next matches are here, except I guess Roode Lashley. And even that, I know who wins. So. Good movie. Well, let's get going here on this Impact show. A fun and exciting. Did I already use that line?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of just a show. Let's go. I will say the crowd looked a lot better this evening.
And sounded
better. It looked like there might have been people in the building.
So the gimmick was they're doing a tag tournament, and for some reason they couldn't just name teams. They picked 8 individuals, and each of those individuals was allowed to pick their partner. Then everyone just picked the partner you would have guessed anyway.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't just have
what the point of this was, I have no idea.
Yeah, that was funny.
So Matt Hardy came out to announce that his tag team partner would be Jeff Hardy. Shocking.
He even admitted it was a shocking revelation.
Yes, they fought the Bromans, which was obviously DJZ and Jesse. They had every 4-minute TV tag opener you ever saw. Hardy's made their comeback with a twist of fate and senton. There was nothing wrong with it, but I've seen it a million times, and that's all I have to say.
Yeah, it was a good basic tag team match, but nothing to write home about.
Bran came out for a promo. He's talking about what the violent things he had done to Abyss. Dubs himself the new king of hardcore. Says Devon's going to be his next victim. And it's actually a really good promo. I'm really into it. And then he says, "You all fear my name. I am Bram." And I laughed.
He said he wanted us all to know his name and fear it. And I am
Bram.
Is it Bram? Is it Brahm? Is it Bram Stoker or Brahm? Didn't we have this argument once?
Probably. The first time we realized what a stupid name it was.
All I know is this
Mike
was
Tenay
like...
says it Bram.
Yeah, this was like a monologue for a Lord of the Rings audition.
Sure. Great. But don't call yourself Bram. At least get a last name.
Well, maybe
Bram.
His name is Bob, and he's like a ram, and so he chose Bram.
So there's a period in there?
Well, no, I'm just saying I don't know why his name is Bram.
Bram.
He faced Devon Dudley in a not-scheduled match.
They brawled for a while, and then at a completely random point, security came out and separated them, and Kurt Angle made the match for later in the show.
I love that this company has got limited expenses, but meanwhile they've got 9 million security guards.
Yeah. Brittany approached Sam Shaw backstage, asked if he was going to do what they had talked about. He said he didn't know. She said she would like it if he did.
What an outfit she had on today.
Well, she was stunning.
It was quite stunning. I liked how, I don't know, like, maybe she's a tomboy in real life and she only wears tennis shoes, but it was such a monumental struggle anytime she had to walk on this program. Walking down the ramp, struggle. Walking up to Sam Shaw, struggle.
She's the best. So, it was Loki and Samoa Joe. I guess that's the closest they had to a mismatched team. But Key just said they had fought a million times. He knew Joe was tough and they could win the tag titles together. Against Sam Shaw and Gunner.
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing this match, and Brittany comes out to watch, and she's...
Struggles out,
Yeah.
I wrote here.
Yeah. And she's trying to talk to Shaw, and Shaw's talking to her, and Gunner's getting pissed and trying to get Shaw to focus on the match and ordering Brittany to the back. And then Brittany tripped Gunner, and Loki hit him with a kick, and Joe hooked a choke for the win. And then Gunner started getting mad at Brittany for obvious reasons, and then Shaw started beating him up with a chair, and then Brittany laughed, and then Sam Shaw and Brittany made out for a while. This all got like twice as much time as the Hardys wrestling match did.
Well, it's a big angle, Vinny. He turned on Gunner. Remember when they had that storyline backstage where Gunner went up to Sam Shaw and he was talking to him about Brittany, if I recall correctly, and Sam Shaw said something like, "There's somebody else I've got my eye on." Remember that?
Vaguely.
Yeah. So much for that.
I don't care.
I care about Sam Shaw's corduroy pants. Like, he got rid of the sweater.
Yeah.
But he's still wearing corduroy pants with a belt. I don't know.
Maybe Crazy Steve had a yard sale.
Could have been. I did like Brittany's see-through Lululemon yoga pants.
Sure.
Highlight of the show, aside from the tag match.
EC3 and Tyrus were backstage for a promo. Ethan declared Tyrus was his tag partner. He challenged Spud to find a partner of his own, but he knew Spud would always be afraid and laughed. MVP and his crew were whining about Bobby Roode getting another title shot, but they said Lashley would beat him again, and then Kenny and MVP declared themselves in the tag team tournament, which I guess you can do.
Well, they did specify it was open to anybody.
I guess. So first come, first serve?
I guess so, yeah.
Rebel was supposed to wrestle Angelina Love, but then Havoc came out and killed Rebel. The crowd was so concerned they chanted for tables. So Rebel got chokeslammed, and Gail Kim ran out and brawled with Havoc. In the middle of this brawl, they started playing music and went to break.
Yeah, this Havoc thing not working.
Nah, really ain't.
Like, literally nobody cared about the brawl. It was just, like, dead. And then we had more officials out again, which we don't need twice in one show, but I guess they decided that we did. And that was that.
Bram versus Devon. They basically had a toned-down version of a New Jack match in 2014. They do not have New Jack's charisma or natural-born killers playing, so it's just two dudes bashing each other with weapons repeatedly.
I don't know if I was just tired or what, but this was like the most boring garbage match I've ever seen. They just, like, hit each other with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then, if you recall on the Tuesday show, we were ranting and raving about the main event on Raw, where they decided that they were going to do a street fight. But in the middle of this handicapped street fight, no rules match, everybody stood on the apron like an idiot waiting for a tag. So here in this match, they had a finish. And the finish was Magnus is going to come out, and he is going to hit Devon with a stick behind the referee's back. Apparently, nobody brought up the fact that it is a no DQ hardcore match. Why does the ref have to have his back turned?
I don't know.
So yeah, they had to distract the ref in order to use a stick. And then Bram used a turnbuckle right in front of the ref, which of course was legal, and pinned him.
Yeah.
This was a complete waste of time, and it annoyed me.
Mr. Anderson asked Chris Melendez to team with him against Kenny King and MVP. Melendez accepted.
I really like this because Anderson is a military guy, and Melendez was a sergeant. And so Anderson is like, the story is that Anderson really looks up to and respects Melendez. And there's a lot of bullshit in wrestling, like most of it. But this actually feels real. And I think that they're a great duo, which I'm sure surely means that Mr. Anderson is turning on him imminently.
Probably, yeah.
I really hope not. I think they're great.
So that was the match, Anderson and Melendez versus King and MVP. I believe they kept Melendez on the apron the entire time until the comeback.
That was a good comeback.
It was mostly very rudimentary stuff like hip tosses.
He did a good fisherman suplex.
He did do a fisherman suplex, and I don't know if he did this intentionally or if it just works out that way. But he does this really cool bridging fisherman suplex with his natural leg planted on the mat, arched, and his fake leg sticking straight up in the air.
Oh yeah.
Don't know if it, like I say, I don't know if that was his plan or if that's how he does it, but it did look unique. So the action continued a bit, and then King rolled him up and hooked the tights for the win.
When I heard about this, I was really annoyed, but it doesn't matter. The Melendez team had to be beaten at some point. I mean, I wish they would have pinned Anderson, because, like, Melendez, I don't know. When you got a special guy, like, I guess there's heat when you pin him. And again, it doesn't matter, but I couldn't believe they pinned the guy.
Here.
Yeah.
They got...
By Kenny King.
He was in a random pointless tag match.
Yeah.
There's better ways, not just, well, especially Melendez, but there's better ways to give anyone their first loss.
Guy like Chris Melendez is so unique and so special that there's like a million things that you can do with him. And what they've decided to do is he's just a guy who has matches and he loses. It's like,
well,
of the million things I could come up with to do with Chris Melendez, that is number 1,000,000. I can think of 999,999 things that would be better than this.
Yeah. Eric Young gave Spud a pep talk backstage, but Spud wasn't hearing it. Spud announced he had no friends and no job. What are you doing backstage at a wrestling show?
Well, that's it. He's unemployed.
Looking for work?
The fuck else is he going to do?
All right.
We already know he lives in a one-bedroom studio apartment in poverty.
Right. That's true.
Hey, so I'll just go to the show.
So depressing there, he may as well go.
Hey. Listen, Eric Young said that he had never met anybody in this entire business who loved wrestling more than Spud.
Yeah.
And I realize the guy, hey, I'm sure he's a huge fan. I'm sure he loves wrestling, but there's no one that Eric Young has ever met in this business that loves wrestling more than Spud. Although if that is the case, it explains why Spud's here. He's backstage at a wrestling show.
Yes.
What could be better?
So Ethan and Tyrus came out for the match. Oh, excuse me. Spud walked out, and Eric said something like he'd have to do this the hard way or something like that. James Storm tried to recruit Davey Richards to his crew. Nothing came of it.
Yet.
Yeah. Then Ethan and Tyrus came out for their match. And Eric came out. He announced Spud and his partner. They played Spud's wacky music, but no Spud. And Ethan laughed. He said Spud was a coward and a loser, just like these people. Went off on that for a while, but then Spud actually appeared. So we got Ethan and Tyrus versus Eric Young and Spud.
You know, when they first broke this up, the very first thing I said was, as much as I love this, where is it going? Are they going to have a match? Remember this speech?
Yes. Because I've since I first heard about this, I thought it was a god-awful idea.
Well, you know what? It is working.
It is. Much better than I would have thought.
Oh, yeah. The people really care about this feud. It's because both guys are so great in their role. EC3 is a great bully dickhead. And Spud is a great, sympathetic, nice guy babyface. And when they were in the ring together, the people cared more about that than literally anything else on this entire show.
Yeah.
And Spud, as noted, was a great babyface. There was a big spot where him and EC3 end up in the ring together, and EC3 slaps him, and then Spud hauls off and slaps him right on his ass, and then runs underneath his legs and makes the hot tag. Eric Young goes wild. Spud does this giant dive off the post. It was like so great. And then, of course, Tyrus killed poor Spud, and EC3 didn't steal it. He took the glory pin, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah, he demanded the pin.
Yeah, I thought this was by far the best thing on the show.
It was to this point. I actually really liked the main event angle. But this is the best match in the show.
That was very good too. But yes, this was excellent.
This was the best match in the show. There's nothing to complain about. It had a point. It had a purpose. There was meaning to it all, and it progressed the storyline and also left you. We've finished this chapter now. You've seen Spud have his debut. He's still seeking revenge.
That's right.
So there you go.
Very good.
Yeah. Main event was the contract signing between the Bobbies, Roode and Lashley.
Mm-hmm.
So Angle comes out, and then Roode comes out in jeans, a V-neck T-shirt, and what appeared to be a velvet dinner jacket.
Sure.
Don't ask me.
Maybe he raided Sam Shaw's closet.
I guess. They just all trade clothes. MVP and his crew came out, and they start cutting promos on each other. And Roode is talking about how all he cares about is pro wrestling. But Lashley's heart is split. He really wants to be in MMA. He doesn't care about wrestling like Roode does. Certainly not like Spud does, by the way.
No, nobody does in the whole world.
Mm-hmm. He finishes and he says that Lashley is not a machine. He is a man, and he can be beaten. And MVP speaks up to speak for Lashley. He says, it doesn't matter if it's an MMA cage or a pro wrestling ring. I point Lashley to his opponent, and Lashley destroys whoever's in front of him. An excellent point.
MVP is the world's best Don King.
Yes.
He is the man's promoter.
Mm-hmm.
He is his manager.
Yes.
He manages his career and his matches. It's an awesome gimmick. This gimmick is so great that it boggles my mind that they beat Lashley.
Well, not that this is a good reason, but isn't part of the deal that they don't know?
Well, yeah.
It's a contractual thing.
Yeah.
So it still sucks.
Great job signing all your champions to contracts that are about to end.
Yeah. So it was a great promo on MVP's part. And Angle began to announce a special ref when MVP said, wait. I have never interfered in any of Lashley's matches because I don't have to. He can beat everyone on his own. So for some reason now you're going to name Eric Young as a ref. Go ahead. And Angle surprised him. He said he was naming himself as ref.
You know what's so funny about it is Angle starts out by saying, this match deserves a decisive winner. And as soon as he said it, my first thought was, Bobby Lashley has beaten everybody clean.
Including Roode.
Yeah. He has not...
The only guy in the company who wins all his matches clean.
That's right. And MVP's out there noting he's never interfered. And I'm like, that is correct. You're right here. What
Spot
the fuck
on.
is Kurt Angle talking about here? And yeah, the heel team was in the right here.
Yeah. So Angle names himself special ref. MVP was outraged, said, no way, that's not part of the deal, match is not happening, let's go. But Lashley defied him. He stepped up, he signed the contract, and Bobby Lashley gave Bobby Roode a great stare down. It was calm,
yeah,
but it was cold-blooded. It was a look that said, in 7 days, I'm going to kill you, and it's going to mean nothing to me.
Yeah.
Bobby Lashley is a scary, scary man.
This
was awesome.
Yeah, it was it was an MMA style stare down, which was funny because Roode brought up MMA earlier, and literally nobody in the crowd cared.
Of course not.
What is interesting is Bobby Lashley is fighting in Bellator tomorrow, and the guy that he is fighting is 9-0, and it's like all first round stoppages or something like that.
Uh-oh.
But granted, he doesn't have a Wikipedia, which should tell you something.
Really? That's actually stunning.
He's also plus 600, which means he's a huge underdog. But there's a very good chance that he may beat Bobby Lashley tomorrow. But anyway, the point of this is, I wonder what they're going to do when Lashley comes out in terms of, none of this really matters, but it was the first thing I was thinking. Are they going to announce Bobby Lashley as the TNA World Heavyweight Champion? Because right now he's technically not, even though he hasn't lost it on television yet. And the reason I bring it up is the answer would normally be, well, of course they will, because if it hasn't aired on TV, it hasn't happened yet. But on this show, at the end of the program, they showed clips of next week's match. So they have acknowledged on television that the match has already taken place. Does anybody care about this except me and probably Dave? Unlikely. But I was thinking about it when I watched it. Alrighty, well, let's start with this Impact report here.
Impact. Opened straight away with a wrestling match, which is unique and refreshing these days. MVP and Kenny King versus Loki and Samoa Joe. It was the semifinal in the tag team tournament. So MVP, as you probably all know, he wrestles anyway in like a scuba costume, or a scuba suit. It's like a full body suit. His chest is completely obscured, his back is covered, his long sleeves cover all his arms. Then he put a t-shirt over it to wrestle in.
Yeah.
I guess he is just desperate to sell some merchandise. So they had a lot of time and had a very fun TV tag match. Actually, their two best spots. The heels were trying to drag Joe out of the ring by his feet. So Joe's in the ring standing, and each heel has one foot and is pulling on it.
What a plan, by the way.
Yeah. So Joe is trapped, and he calls on Loki, and Loki charges, and Joe backdrops him over the ropes onto both opponents. That was fun. And even more fun, towards the end there, Joe's making his comeback, and King cuts him off, hits it with a kick, and makes a cover, and Loki does the best breakup of a pin ever. He charges across the ring, he leaps high into the air, and he comes down with both feet in Kenny King's ribs.
Yeah.
This is brutal and savage, and it made me laugh. So they went back and forth for a while, and eventually Joe got MVP in the ring and choked him out for the win. This was fun.
Yeah, it was a good opener. I don't have anything to say about the opener, but before this match and after this match, they had promos for the Bobby Roode Lashley main event, which of course was their second meeting for the title. And what is it with these shows where we put together a fabulous video package for a big match, and we air it on the show that the match has taken place? Have people forgot what video packages are all about?
Promotions no longer promote.
This is like a WWE deal where WWE does this all the time. Their best video packages are on the pay-per-view that you already bought. And so apparently somebody thought that was really cool, and so now they've taken that concept to TNA. I can think of no other explanation for this. But like, if they had aired these video packages for the last 4 or 5 weeks leading up to this championship match, or even the past 2 or 3 weeks, I would have been looking forward to this match like crazy.
Yes.
These video packages were awesome. But guess what? They waited until the day the show aired to put them on television. Can you imagine, Vinny? All of us youngsters, I don't give a shit about sci-fi or anything like that, but I grew up with Star Wars. And Star Wars episode, 7? Is that the next one coming out?
I think so, yeah.
They're doing Star Wars episode 7 coming up here in 2015. And I'm sure that geeks all over the world cannot wait to see the Star Wars episode 7 trailer. Just like...
Dude, you can go right now. The Avengers trailer just hit the world and everyone lost their damn minds.
Okay. Can you imagine if, like, the only way you could see the Avengers trailer was to go to Avengers after it came out?
Yes. That's a solid analogy, and that is exactly what they're doing.
Like, isn't the idea that you get a trailer ready, like, 6 months in advance? Like, if the movie's coming out in June, you start airing the trailers during all of the Christmas movies. And you give people 6 months to lose their shit, and then you give them the movie. In pro wrestling, it's like, we got this great match, put together the best video package you can, and then we'll air it on the show. Is this that hard?
Apparently.
Baffling to me.
Yeah.
Baffling.
Devon was cutting a promo backstage when his phone rang. He took the call in the middle of the interview, which was very rude. And apparently this person was calling to say they were there. Yeah. Bran came out for a promo.
Isn't Tommy Dreamer always there?
Pretty much, actually, yeah. Like, as far as big surprise partners go, this is not much of a surprise. So Bran came out for a promo, and then he quickly called out Magnus, and they both talked about how, essentially, they were badasses. They had been spilling blood and raising hell since they were teenagers. Now they were united as a team, and no one could stop them. It was actually a hell of a promo by both guys. It came off great. I was a little annoyed that Bran kept he kept changing the nicknames of the guys he was fighting. He said he wanted to destroy the Brotherhood of Hardcore. And later he talked about taking out the dinosaurs of Hardcore. So that annoyed me, but that's nitpicking.
I loved when Bram said, imagine, Magnus, if you had been this dangerous when you were the champion.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, you might have won a match.
Yes, he had a point. He was correct. So this is a great promo, and I don't know why this team was not in the tag team tournament.
Well, they just didn't enter. It was an open tournament.
I guess so. So Devon came out, ran them down for a bit, and then, yes, he introduced Tommy Dreamer. And the announcers mentioned that Bully Ray was taking a sabbatical so his body could heal. I see.
In other words, he had not yet re-signed.
Yeah. So they had a giant brawl for a while, and then Devon pulled out some chairs, and the Englishman left. A very basic segment, and there was nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's fine. I loved when Devon came out wearing a button-up shirt. Actually, it was Dreamer.
Yeah.
And I mentioned this before, but Dreamer looks more and more like a dark-haired Ric Flair every day.
He is growing his hair long.
Yeah.
Madison,
and his knockoff music's got to go.
Guy in a Crate.
Oh, my God. It's so bad.
Madison was backstage trying to make peace with Taran Terrell. I had completely forgotten why they're not getting along now. I guess Madison pulled the tights
because
to win a match.
Madison pulled her tights in a match months ago or weeks ago.
Yeah.
And Taran holds a grudge.
Apparently. So, Taran said they should concentrate on their match against the beautiful people for now and solve their problems later. Shark Boy was backstage.
This gimmick.
The best thing this guy ever did for his career was to get fat.
Oh, yeah?
Well, he was unemployed, at least not on TNA, and they brought him back fat, and now he's on TV every week. Right?
Well, I can't argue with you there, but I don't know how much he's making now that he's employed.
That's a solid point. So he's back there, and he's supposed to be doing an autograph signing, but he wants to eat his hot dog. I was very disappointed, by the way, that he never took a bite of the thing anyway, but he had like the shark mask pulled up over his mouth. He should have been eating through the mask. It'd been funnier that way.
I was just glad that I watched this before we did the contest because I would have imagined he was eating all them dogs.
Indeed. So he was a jerk to fans. He didn't want to sign their autographs or take photos with them. And that Pat Kenny arrived. He yelled at him for being rude and fat. Said he was blowing his second chance, dared him to get back in shape and be the real Shark. Shark said, "You're right."
The real Shark was John Tenta. It's been confirmed watching all these old Nitros.
Maybe that's why he's getting fat.
Yeah.
He wants to be like John Tenta. Take a lot more than that, by the way.
All I know about this is as you noted, his mask came up as he's eating the hot dogs, and you could see his multiple chins. I, honest to God, didn't realize how fat he was getting until he pulled his mask up. And then it was like, oh, my God, he is fat.
Well, yeah.
So then he's yelling at the kids, and he's like, hey, you old hag, take this picture. And whoever the granny was that he called an old hag, she was like an awesome actor. She didn't react too much. She just heard him, and she looked at him briefly as if to say, you fat fuck. And then she took the picture, and she was done. She was awesome. And then Pat Kenny, of all people, telling Shark Boy he's too fat.
Yeah.
It's like, man.
And then Shark Boy storms out, and someone off camera asks, do you think he has a chance? And Pat Kenny, and I honestly don't know if he did this on purpose or not, but he basically hit the Simon Diamond pose and said, no chance.
That's right. Well, I guess he'd know, right?
What are you saying?
He's fat.
I see. Just making sure we're on the same page. Beautiful People versus Madison Rayne and Taran Terrell.
Oh, Jesus.
You and I noticed very different things in this match. What I noticed was that Taran's top offered virtually no support. And as much as implants can jiggle, she was jiggling all over the place.
Oh, I noticed, but it was not the main thing that I noticed. The main thing I noticed is that Taran Terrell is willing to take a lot of risks and do scary things and take goofy bumps. And with the right person, she can have a very good match. But when it comes to doing like a wrestling match, when it comes to like hitting the ropes and delivering forearms, and by the way, the hitting the ropes and delivering forearms in this match, no good. She was terrible in this match. And keep in mind, she was the choice to replace Havoc. That's all I got.
Yeah.
She was just bad.
So the story is Madison is not getting along with Taran. So Taran comes over to tag out, and Madison abandons her, turns her back, and jumps down.
Come on.
So the Beautiful People tear Taran back away and start beating her up again. And they do this again, over and over. And Taran thinks maybe this time Madison will change her mind and tag me in or tag me out. So finally, she hit a body press on both heels, landed right in her face. And then
that's amazing when you can do a high cross onto two people and still land on your own face.
Yeah. And Madison came in without a tag. She attacked the Beautiful People. She booted Taran right in the face. Then hit a weird sit-out face lock thing, and then she left, and the beautiful people pinned Taran at the same time, and Taran was openly laughing at this. This was no good.
No, it really wasn't. Especially after watching the Horseman beatdown at Havoc 95.
I honestly didn't even occur to me these are the same thing. This is so much not the same.
But you know what? It was the same.
Only worse.
Yeah.
Very, very, very much worse.
It was depressing and sad. They actually got a lot of boos, though. I gotta give them that, a shocking amount of boos. And then the beautiful people got the old double pin, and that's not allowed. But Earl allowed it. Old pervert. That's his gimmick.
I know. We aired the fucking awesome Lashley hype video. This is so awesome. Just Lashley beating the hell out of men, throwing heavy weights around, standing there looking terrifying. This was great. And it aired an hour before the actual match. Kurt Angle did a promo saying he was the special ref. He was going to make sure nobody interfered, which I guess technically is true. EC3 and Tyrus versus the Hardys in a tag team tournament semifinal.
There was so much fake tan in this ring, it wasn't even funny.
There's a lot of orange going around.
Oh my God, it was like they were pumpkins for Halloween.
It was. Mike Tenay said if we went to the website, we could see, quote, a cool picture of Tyrus and Snoop Dogg.
I just love that they announced that there was an exclusive interview with Tyrus at TNAWrestling.com, and they plug it up real big, and then they beat him.
That is true. So Ethan is still doing spots mocking Sting. The announcers are still pointing out, hey, look, he's making fun of Sting. This is going to make him look very low rent, probably sooner than later. So it was a pretty fun tag match for the most part, and then the ending kind of fell apart. They isolate Tyrus, and he does some fun giant spots, throwing them both around, and then they cut him off, and Jeff hits a stunner, and Matt hits a twist of fate, and the idea is Jeff will go up and hit the senton, only Tyrus, I don't know if he just didn't want to take the move, but rather than roll into position, he rolled like all the way across the ring, and Matt had to go get him and roll him back.
Yeah.
And even then, he was still out of position, and Jeff sentoned his legs. And Jeff pinned him.
Tyrus has got a great look, but my God, he was terrible in this match.
Yeah. So, Ethan was appalled and tore into him at ringside. James Storm and his crew had a promo in the ring. He said he was there to, it was time to expand. He called out Davey Richards. Davey came out to hear what he had to say. And James says, look, you're a tag team wrestler. I was a tag team wrestler for many years. I was held back by my partners. I don't want to see that happen to you. And Eddie Edwards ran out and interrupted. So there's no way Davey would give up everything they had to join Storm. And Davey grabbed the mic away and said he could speak for himself. At this point, Eddie didn't want to hear anymore. He challenged Storm to a fight. Storm accepted. So, Eddie Edwards versus James Storm. This was probably, all in all, the best thing on the show.
Keep in mind, by the way, that the Wolves have been around for a few months now.
Mm-hmm.
Tyrus just debuted.
Mm-hmm.
They're already breaking all these teams up.
Yeah.
I mean, is it that hard to let people just, like, be teams for a while?
Apparently. So Eddie and Storm had a fun match. Davey was at ringside looking sad and conflicted. Then also, Manic was coming over trying to make a sales pitch, essentially. And Eddie had to keep fighting him away from his own tag team partner. So it was essentially Eddie Edwards, the best babyface on earth, fighting three men at once. He was very good at it. And then finally, he got into a argument with Davey. And then Davey was in the apron and they were arguing. And then Eddie turned around and Storm super kicked him and pinned him. And the announcers were sure to point out that Davey, if he wanted to, could easily have warned Eddie, James Storm is behind you, is going to kick your head off. It didn't happen. I enjoyed this.
It was good. The only thing that I didn't like about it is Davey Richards is a great wrestler. He is not an actor. And his whole role here was to act torn. And he was so obviously torn. He was furrowing his brow. He was looking sadly at the fans. There was a spot where Manic was dramatically whispering into his ears, and he got the furrowed brow again. And it's like, okay, the dude ain't an actor. So why don't you just have him go out there and have him do nothing? No facials whatsoever, nothing. And you have the announcers tell the story. What does this mean? What does it mean that he's just standing there? Why is he not reacting? What is he thinking? That to me is much better than having a guy who's not an actor have to go out there and act like he's torn. He doesn't know what to think or which way to go. I don't know. I just thought it was kind of corny. But the story of the match was great.
Yeah. It was time for the main event. It was Bobby Roode and Bobby Lashley. And I've been thinking about this. Obviously, this was taped weeks ago, maybe literally months ago. So I know it was coming for a while. But Bobby Lashley, as he's been portrayed on TV, and I know it doesn't matter at this point in TNA, and he's a lame duck champion and all that, but the fact of the matter is, Bobby Lashley has been a great champion.
Oh, yeah.
He has come out and looked scary. MVP has done all the talking, which makes Lashley better, by the way. It is not only does it hide his weaknesses, it improves him. He has a man to speak for him. He has an underling to do his talking. All he does is train and eat and kill. And so then he goes out. By and large, he has great matches. He destroys everyone and beats them clean. He's been the best champion, certainly the TNA. Maybe, you know what I'm thinking about it? Probably literally the best champion TNA's ever had. As far as booking goes,
well, they did really well with Kurt Angle as well. But yes, this is
certainly their best in a long time.
One of, if not the best champion that they've ever booked.
So I knew his reign was ending here, and I was really sad because his reign ended amid the usual pro wrestling bullshit. So the whole idea is Kurt Angle is there to ensure there's no interference, and like I say, there was none. But multiple ref bumps, another ref coming in. Belt shot, a low blow, all the bullshit from like the Jarrett days. And after all this crap, Roode is trying the Roode bomb, and he can't get it, and he tries 2 or 3 times, and then Lashley turns it into a roll-up, but Roode sits down, he out-wrestles the wrestler, and he hits a cradle to win the match and the title. And Lashley was screaming at Kurt for, I guess he was screaming about a fast count, which there wasn't. So I don't know why. And that was that. And it wasn't bad. I was just, it bummed me out.
See, I thought this was very good. And I have been talking for weeks now, wondering why you would take the championship off Bobby Lashley. Now, granted, when they taped this, they didn't know if he was going to win both of his fights. Or at least when they taped this, they didn't know if he'd win his second fight. But he did. He won both of his MMA fights. He has been booked as an unbeatable killer. And when I heard that they took the belt off him, it was like, okay, I'm sure there may be like contractual issues. You want to get the belts on people that are going to be there long term in case you sign a new deal. But man, did you have to take the title off Bobby Lashley? So I was really sad going into this match. And first off, the finish where Bobby went for a sunset flip and the other Bobby turned it into a cradle and pinned him. Of all the possible finishes, that was actually great. If you got to beat Lashley, at least he got beaten by a flash pin, and I don't think it really hurt him all that bad. He was a destroyer during the match. He got beat for 3 seconds. He got beat, and now he can still be a destroyer again after this. It was the best possible finish you could have done to beat the guy clean. And as far as like all of the interference and stuff, I don't disagree except for one thing. I have seen a million TNA main event bullshit matches where 9 million goofy things happen. And how many times have we seen that occur? And everybody's going crazy at the beginning of the match, and as the match goes on and they do more and more bullshit, they lose the crowd. And finally, by the end, nobody gives a shit about anything when they do the finish. At least in this match, every time they did one of these twists and turns, the fans were into it. They went nuts for the... there was a belt shot that everybody bought as a finish. Bobby Roode kicked out. The place went nuts. They were chanting, "This is awesome." I even liked the gimmick. I think they should do this gimmick all the time. You can't do it as comedy, but have Bobby Lashley be the guy where he is a spearing machine. And if he misses his opponent, somebody's going to die. He accidentally speared Kurt. He accidentally speared some geek at ringside. And it was great every single time. So I didn't mind all the twists and turns. And they did a flash pin. I still don't think they should have beat him. But I didn't think this was a disaster. And by the way, look at Bobby Lashley. This guy's 38 years old. And somehow he's getting better at both pro wrestling and mixed martial arts.
That's a solid point.
How's that even possible? And finally, are you aware, and I went on Wikipedia to find out his exact age, that his real name, do you know Bobby Lashley's real name?
No, I assumed it was Bobby Lashley.
His real name is Franklin Roberto Lashley. What?
Are you saying that would be a better name than Bobby?
It's just hilarious. Franklin Roberto Lashley? Roberto? Is he Mexican?
Yes.
He is?
I don't know. I suspect not.
So there you go. Franklin Roberto Lashley.
Ex-champion.
Ex-champion. That's too bad. So there you go, everybody. That was it. That was Nitro, or Impact. I'm sorry. That was Impact. So yeah, not a bad show. Not a bad show.